Oh, another Friday night. What are we watching, playing, drinking, streaming, reading? Everybody, how is it going? It's, like I said, it's another beautiful Friday. I'm excited to be here. If you don't know, or if you know me, some of you know me as Spencer, some of you know me as Mav, but if you're here, you absolutely know me as the host of The Good, the Mav, and the Ugly, where we aim to give you some deep dives into some of the smaller, discuss more niche topics that happen in around the geek sphere, primarily weeb stuff, and we talk about it from the perspective of people who actually like this stuff, who actually engage with this stuff. So if you're here, welcome aboard. If you're returning, always a pleasure to see you. If you're new, welcome aboard. Sorry, I'm in sort of a tizzy because literally the last hour and a half before I sat down to do the stream, I had to go bounce around the town and do a bunch of errands, and then there was traffic, so I'm just like woo 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 going all over the place. But aside, my confusion aside, my I don't even know what you would call it, but yeah, my stalling, my stuttering, all that aside, I'm happy to be here. It's another Friday. We've got a lot to talk about. Obviously, if you guys saw the thumbnail, the main topic of discussion tonight is going to be the entire kerfuffle that happened around Capcom voice actor Reuben Langdon, aka the voice and motion capture actor for Dante from Devil May Cry. So that's going to be our main topic. Obviously, there's a couple other things we'll probably try to get to. I definitely want to talk some video games. I want to talk some anime. We have a new issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, so we're definitely going to get into that. But as always, before we actually start getting into these topics, I want to say hello to the chat because I see you guys are already rolling. Let's see. Oh, yes, of course. Number one is my good friend Andrew, probably the only guy I know who can, stand on equal footing with me when it comes to talking comic books or, explaining what they like about comic books. Andrew's here asking, on a scale of 1 to Mav, how gay is a stream? And I gotta tell you, it's, like I said in the chat, your meter doesn't go up high enough. This stream is so gay, it ranks outside of your classifications. So we're gonna need a new Andrew scale for the level of gay on this episode. See, even Jacob knows the stream is so gay, RuPaul is going to sue it for copyright infringement. Honestly, RuPaul, if you're watching, I'll take the publicity. That would be incredible. Shinkai says, so a standard JoJo episode being that, honestly, I don't know. JoJo is like, what's the right differentiator here? It's like manly hetero gay, if that makes any sense, right? Like, I'm not denying that it's gay to an extent, but there's also like a level of manly that drips off of it. I'm probably not putting it in the right words, but I think everybody here who watches or who's watched JoJo knows exactly what I'm describing. Zero says, I'm here. Zero, how is it going? Dante is also here with the Dozer is late and gay, so he fits right in. That's absolutely what he's right at home. Everybody, the happiest, gayest stream in the world. Let's see. Zero says, I finished Chrono Trigger right on time for your stream. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you've been playing that for like the last 2 days or so, 3 days. I was thinking about this to myself earlier today. Like for example, like I've been wanting to play Chrono Trigger again for a long time, but obviously like I've got backlogs, I've got work, I've got other things going on. But then I watched you and you're like, okay, done in like 2 days with all the endings. And I'm just like, I wish I had that like dedication for RPGs in specific. In particular, because when it comes to RPGs, that it takes me so long to want to like sit down and get in that mood to sort of invest my time, especially because it kind of goes back to my bigger problem I have with sort of game design in general, which is, or more modern game design in general than old game design, which is, let me play the game. Like I have such and it's a very personal problem. This isn't a slight on anybody's creative choices. Slight on their creative choices, but like when I boot up a game, I don't necessarily want to spend 50 to 60 minutes getting to know the entire world and setting and characters right away. I sort of wish it would be done in a, what's the right word, in an interactable way, tutorial levels or training missions, stuff like that. I was watching a video last night from Yahtzee, the YouTuber. I'm sure you guys know him. He's a very, very old, very, very relatively big video game YouTuber. I know he's very passe and not at the peak of his height anymore. But as a fellow curmudgeon, I sort of hear him on it. So like I still tune in. But he was talking about tutorial levels and what they sell to you and how they help bring you and immerse you into the world, because they give you, there's an objective to do. You put yourself in the feet of, or like in the role of the character. One of the ones he brought up that really resonated with me was the Half-Life introduction, right? Where you're Gordon Freeman and you get your HVAC suit, HEVC suit. I don't even remember what it's supposed to be called anymore, but you get your suit, and it's very similar to like the Halo intro, right? Where, you put it on and then you have to calibrate. So you got to look up, look right, in Halo, Cortana's like, go stretch your legs, see what's going on. Things like that really set you in there, especially if it flows right into gameplay after, like a tutorial gameplay. Half-Life was the one I started with, but now that I realize that Halo has like the better example, I'm going to stick with Halo for a second. But in Halo, right, you awaken from your cryopod, Cortana gets you through your recalibrations, wakes you up, you start walking around, and then all of a sudden there's an attack on the pillar, and you have to, you're deployed, or you have to fight, and, it gives you like a gun, it gives you a pistol, and it gives you very basic enemies to sort of get the flow of what the game's supposed to be. And as you start slowly progressing through, you get, it gets you into the real flow of the game. And I just really miss that, because nowadays I feel like there's too much of sit down, let us info dump on you, and then info dump on you some more with mechanics, info dump on you more with menus, info dump on you more with gear scores. Like, for example, this is just another sort of tangent, but obviously, Helldivers 2, an amazing game. People are ranting and raving about it. Obviously, as a third-person video game character action fan, I was all about it. I was super stoked at the gameplay. But then a friend of mine, he was like, "Oh yeah, I really love it. You should totally play it with us." Blah 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 blah. And I went, "Cool. Like, you know what? Maybe I will. When I get my next paycheck, I'll drop $40. I'll join you guys." But then he immediately went, "Oh man, so good to see you joining up. Go through this spreadsheet and look at the best, like the min max builds and every single gear stat. And this is what you're gonna want." And I'm just like, "Oh, never mind. Like, I don't want this game anymore, because I didn't know it was going to be a gear looter sort of game, right?" Luckily, I do know now that that's not the case. I had a friend later on go like, no. Our friend, he's just autistic. Like, you know that's how he gets when it comes to video games. So he's going to go min-max, but the reality of the game is just to have fun. So all of that really to say, back to Dozer's point, saying hi to Dozer, is, yeah, I really applaud your ability to just get into RPGs and start going. All right, back to everybody else. Yeah, Andrew says, I want to play and replay a lot of things, but I'm in the middle of moving. I mean, that's always going to make it more difficult, especially because as you and I have been we were talking about it today. A lot of your stuff is still packed up, and I know that's the main barrier. Like, that's such a big barrier, like, to me on one hand too, but I think the other barrier is, like, I don't know about you guys, but I genuinely sometimes wake up on a day and I'm like, I wish I could get, like, someone get me cancer so that I can just, like, sit for a month and play video games or something, right? I feel like that's the main barrier to me getting through my backlog and replaying things, is just time. And that's very much something we're running into as we get older, right? Like, this time, we all had 24 hours back in the day, but when we were 12, those hours seem to stretch on for an eternity. And as you grow older, that's just what happens. Like, time just seems to pass faster. For the best example of that, look at Christmas. I remember being a kid and it's like, oh, Christmas. Oh, it's this month. Oh my gosh, 25 days. How am I supposed to wait? Oh my God, where's Santa? And nowadays it's like, oh shit, it's 11 o'clock on Christmas Eve and I haven't done any shopping for anybody. Well, better get on that. So it's a big combination of all of that. I think, don't you have a PC, Andrew, I think? I'm not entirely sure, but I know that if you have a PC, just in general, not you specifically, but a PC helps in that, like when you're in a transitory state, since everything is locked like right there and you sort of need it. So yeah, I hear that. And again, let's sponsor me. Somebody out there, get me a sugar mama who will just be like, you're cute. You sit here and play video games all day and I'll give you $5,000 a day to do whatever. That's Perfect. We have, all right, getting back to seeing who's up. We have Timon saying, hey, yo, Timon. Always a pleasure to have you, my friend. Earlier this week, I retweeted a GIF from Kaku Rangers of Ninja Red doing his like cycle attack. And I definitely thought of you because I'm like, yes, this is a little later than the eras he typically likes of Sentai and Toku, or of Toei Toku, but I still like this, and I think if I really showed it to Timon, he could not deny that Kaku Rangers is one of the best ones. Oh, you've only done, Zero says all endings. I just did 2 out of 13. Oh, for some reason when you were playing earlier, I totally thought you had gone through all of it. I don't know why. Don't ask me. Again, I'm spaced out today. Zero says, and then Zero also adds, oh, it jumped on me, that he is going to take a break from Chrono Trigger this weekend and play some Mega Man Base 9 and 10. Didn't you play? Oh, no, that was like the old games. Yeah, I haven't played 9 and 10 since they first came out. Like, I jammed super hard on them, played the Proto Man modes, the base modes, but I've never really felt the urge to replay 9 and 10. I don't know why. Again, Mega Man's my favorite video game series of all time, and 9 and 10 are good. They just don't grip me in the same sort of way that the others do. Mega Man and Base, I'll always get behind because it's the only other use that the 32-bit graphics that they did for Mega Man 8 ever got a use, was only in that game, which is super weird because then they immediately went like to the X series. So aside from that, I also think Mega Man and Base has some of the cooler Robot Master designs. Like, I'm a big fan of Burner Man. I'm a big fan of Pirate Man. Then I know it's cheap, and I know, like, if Josh were in the chat right now as a fellow Mega Man purist, he'd be bitching at me. But the fact that Base can shoot in like 9 directions, that's one of those things that, like, as a kid, when I played Mega Man all my life. Shoot forward, shoot forward, shoot forward. Oh, I can finally do the one thing I've always wanted. Blew my mind. So, like, it's still there for me to this day, where I'm just like, yes, Base. And he can double jump. Why would I not pick him over Mega Man every time? Like, are you kidding me? Dante says, I'm done with gaming. Only reason I got back into it is because everyone I know are junkies about it. No mas. I can find better ways to waste my life. Hey, to each their own. It's not always going to click for everybody. Just like I know I have a bunch of friends who play golf, right? I cannot for the life of me get into golf. I know it's fun. I wish them well. Like, I don't chastise them for it. I don't think they're lesser people for playing golf, but I personally can't get behind it. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that, right? I think this is sort of a small tangent, but it also links to something that I wanted to sort of just touch upon, because I think it's something I want to highlight in the spirit of making discourse better, of bringing, just making, calming everybody down, building bridges, all that sort of stuff. I think, a lot of people, when they talk about things that they like or they don't like or whatever, they sort of present it as, my opinion is definitive, and if you don't agree with it, you're wrong. Where, yes, sometimes there are opinions that people hold on that, right? Like, for example, I'll sit here right now and say, if you like the Zeb Wells run of Spider-Man, you have objectively bad taste in comic books. But there are different times where... So the inspiration for this discussion was... I was talking earlier with Andrew, Caffeinated Wolf in the chat, and we were talking about action figures, because... he recently, there's a new Kid Flash figure as part of a line, as part of the McFarlane multiverse line. Now, as you can sort of tell by me, scrunching my eyes there for a second, I'm not really familiar with the whole McFarlane toys line or release philosophies or anything, because I'm just personally not a fan of them. Now, on the other hand, I know Andrew is a giant fan of them. He has a bunch of them. He has, thankfully, I don't think he has, we discovered this earlier, and I'm sure everybody knows this, and I'm sure Andrew knew this as well. But did you guys know that there are 2 different DC Multiverse action figure lines? There's the one from McFarlane Toys, which I think is the one, so it started with Mattel, and I think those are the figures most of us have seen. They have the blue blister package. The colors are bright, but they're they're just colors. There's not really shine or matte effects or texturing or anything really to them. But there's that line. And so that's the line that I thought was still existent. And then Andrew showed me the multiverse line they're doing now. And I guess they gave the entire line over to McFarlane because those toys look fantastic now. Just, on your off time, if you guys feel like it, go compare them. Or, you know what are we doing here? That's the entire reason we have this show. Let me pull up some of these. What was the one we were looking at in particular? Oh, that's right. The Wally one. But before we go into this, sort of, yeah, like we were talking and, I was able to talk to Andrew and go, I don't really like these figures, but I do see how you would like that figure. I do see the advantages of that. Like, good on you. Like, I'm happy you're happy, right? And I think we need to be more conscious in the way we sort of communicate with each other in that regards where, make it clear you're sharing your opinion. Make it clear that, the other person isn't necessarily wrong or bad or whatever simply for disagreeing with you, right? Because I think too much, you guys know me. I want an end to the reactionaryism in our sphere. I want an end to the constant ego fighting, infighting, all that stupid crap. So yeah, I definitely, and even if you are unable to sort of, because obviously it's going to take time if you're not used to recognizing or in communicating that way. But I think even if you're not, you slip up or you don't do it yourself, as long as you can sort of recognize when you're engaging with someone, like, okay, this is their opinion. Let's engage it as on the grounds that it's an opinion. Now, if they change and they start, losing their minds and going, Terminator Dark Fate was the best entry and yada, 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 and you shut up and go away. Like, yeah, you probably can engage and be like, dude, shut up. Like, you're being a little too, like chill. But still, I think we definitely need to sort of breathe when it comes to talking with other people's opinions. Let's see. Oh, I jumped ahead, so let's see. We will let me catch up with the chat real quick, then we'll take a look at those toys because I don't want anybody to feel left out. So yes, we also have Tehillim saying shalom. Good to see you. Good to see you, my man. Happy to have you as always. Have you gotten your YouTube comments fixed yet? Because I still can't post anything. Eccentric Banana. Hey, that's a face I've seen before. How's it going, mi amigo? Always a pleasure to have you, especially when it's over here. Wow, I didn't expect to see you. That's a treat. Ravul saying the shield test. What's the shield test? I know we were talking about like a bunch of different stuff, and I can't remember anymore. Just remind me, Ravul. I'm sure you're perfectly on point. Andrew says tutorials don't bother me so long as they're balanced and don't delay the game itself too much. And yeah, like make tutorials clear, but you don't need to spend an hour on it. And I agree with you there. And that's sort of what I mean by there's a good way to have it organically roll into your gameplay without it feeling like cut, and also without spending 3 hours or whatever getting you acquainted with everything. I don't have any off the top of my head right now just because it's been forever since I've played that sort of game, but I know that back in the PS4 era there were so many games where I would boot them up and go, let's play, and then I get my long cutscene, and then I get my long explanation of like my in-engine cutscene of everything that's going on, and then I get introduced to all the characters and I have to learn all their motivations right away, and then maybe I can finally, finally I can do my missions. You know what? One of the best examples that just popped to my mind, even though I love the game to death, Astral Chain from Platinum Games on the Switch last year. I believe it opens with a very, very brief fight. It's either very brief or not at all. And the very beginning of the game is a lot of walk around the base, talk to everybody, learn what it is, learn what they do, yada, 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 yada. And that sort of, I like to sort of colloquially refer to it as the Ubisoft game design, right? Which is just, here's an open map, go find everything. And instead of giving you organic reasons to sort of go find these points on the map, like, oh, hey, if I'm a game designer and I go, oh, I want to introduce you to our arms dealer. So I'm going to have a mission where, she gets kidnapped and you have to go save her. And she gets kidnapped because, a bunch of the bad guys, wanted her wares or whatever, something like that. And then at the end of the mission, it's like, oh, wow, you totally saved my butt. Like, okay, now we can start doing something. Let me show you something like that makes more sense. It's more immersive. It gives you, the player, more of a sense that you're doing something rather than just sort of like pulling a lever on a slot machine. And so yeah, like there are definitely good ways to do it. It's just definitely about balancing that out, and also just let me play. You're a video game. I want to play. Ravul says Halo 3 ODST with a superior multiplayer experience. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is a great game. Halo, I love ODST so much, and I'm so sad that that game sort of gets ignored from the canon. And then I found this out a couple weeks ago, and it still sort of bugs me. Again, you guys know I'm a gigantic Halo nerd. So in ODST, the entire point of that game, right, is that you are a regular human Marine dropped into New Mombasa in Africa, and you have to, your mission goes awry and your squad splits up. When you're doing the Halo drop, you get hit by like a blast and you all split, so you got to go find them. And yeah, sort of the whole drama of that specific game is I'm just a human. I'm not a Spartan. It's even reflected in the gameplay. You can't jump as high. You can't reload as fast. You don't have as much health, right? So that's sort of what sold ODST or made it distinctive from the rest of the Halo games. Now, in that game, your squad leader is Buck, who is a human, and he's portrayed by Nathan Fillion. That doesn't really matter. It's just pretty neat. But Buck is your squad leader. He is human the entire time. He leads you guys through all of this junk. He constantly talks crap on the Spartans, saying like, we don't need that. Like, we are human. We can do it. And then in Halo 5, they make him a Spartan. They make him a Spartan, whatever they're on now. And it's just like, at this point, you're doing the syndrome thing where once everybody's super, nobody is. I think we've watched it here on this stream before, but like the intro cutscene to Halo 5 is probably... So Halo 4 is the moment for me. There's a moment in Halo 4 where the series dies for me, and that's when the Master Chief gets scanned on the station by the Forerunners, and they go, oh, you have special DNA. You're a chosen one. Like, that to me is the minute Halo dies, because Halo is not about special mystic chosen ones or it's not Star Wars. It's supposed to be a very gritty, like, we are on our last legs here. We are humanity, and the Spartans aren't great, but they're a weapon that we have to use because we need to win. And so the second you start going chosen one, blah blah blah, it just we're out of what story this is supposed to be. But then in 5, the opening cutscene has all the Spartans sort of rushing down a hill and I'm just gonna pull it up because I need to explain it. I'm not gonna explain it and do it justice. Intro. Here we go. Let's switch over to our web window really quick. And yes, guys, our stream buddy for tonight, in honor of Reuben Langdon being our main topic, our stream buddy is Ken from Street Fighter V in a Dante costume. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but this was an official piece of DLC they released at the very beginning of Street Fighter V. I don't believe it's available for purchase anymore. If you have it, you have it, and you're lucky. But it as you can see there, it turns Ken straight up into Dante. He has his Devil May Cry. I want to say that's 4 or 3, because it's not 2 and it's not 5. But he looks good, and it's a pretty good costume. I don't really like the aesthetics of 5. We'll probably get into that a lot more when we get to Reuben Langdon. But yes, I thought that Dante Ken is a very appropriate stream buddy to hang out with. So, right. So, yeah. I guess I can put the volume on a little bit. So you have the Spartans here, right? But then, oh, okay, cool. Whoa, Chief did that. He had to drop into a battleground all on his own without any real support because he's a Spartan. He's essentially a walking tank. But here's where everything starts going completely off the rails. I guess it's going to be a couple seconds, but it's essentially when they get closer to land. Because once they get to the ground, they're no longer like human soldiers. They're literally superheroes. they're jumping and they're flying and they're doing wild spin luchador moves. Like, check this out, right? Like, whoa, check them out. They're flying. They're going. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And it's like, this to me, oh, now they have super punches. And it just sort of, that desperation was a big key element of Halo. And once I see that the Spartans can all do this, why are the Covenant a threat? Look at this. This Spartan just went in and took on 2 soldiers or 2 elites with swords with their foot, with a single pistol. And I remember the first couple games, if you see an elite with a sword, you poop yourself because you know what's about to come. So that was just my little tangent about Reach and about the fact that they turned Buck into a Spartan. I'm just over it. But sorry to drag you down my Halo path. I know, Andrew. I don't know if I ever thought I wish I could just get cancer, but it's like I want an ailment that I can heal from, but it will take me out, make me what's that word? Like bedridden, not bedridden, that's not the right word, but like bedridden works, it's not the word I was looking for, but I want something that makes me like bedridden for a certain amount of time that I can recover from and doesn't necessarily like no, I don't want anybody to expect anything of me. like you know what I mean? Like nowadays you get a cold or something and it's like I still know that, you know, people are going to want work from me. People are going to still say like, "Oh, can you do chores or whatever?" But I want it to be at the point where it's like, "Oh, he's sitting in bed playing video games. Well, leave him. Like this is good for him. He has to. What else is he going to do?" Right? Like that's so cancer is like the closest thing I can think of to that, even though I know it's completely like hyperbolic and out there. Meteor Advocate Timon says, I'm playing Dragon Quest Builders 2. Fun, just fun. Funny story about that, and I think I brought it up on somebody's stream. It was either Lorena's earlier this week or a pro show somewhere. But I find this funny. They just ported Dragon Quest Warriors 1 or Builders 1 to the PC, even though 2 has been there forever. There's nothing nefarious or really anything like newsworthy there. It's probably just a licensing rights deal they had. Like, oh, you had to be on PlayStation for a certain amount of time because you got it. So it's very simple, but I just find it really funny that it's like I was getting like Steam pop-ups for like Dragon Quest Builders 1, and I'm like pretty sure that its sequel is already out and like a third one is like in development. So I don't know, just funny. Let's see. Yeah, Andrew says, Eccentric Banana says, time moves slow for me. Hey, share that. Share some of that slow force with me, my friend. I could use that. There is not enough hours in the day to do anything. I need to spend at least 7 hours a day having an existential crisis staring off into my wall. And if I can't have that, then the day is ruined. Like, it's just shot. Let's see. Yeah. Timon Zero says 9 is meh, 10 is pretty good. Again, like Mega Man 9 and 10, the gameplay, they are good games. Do not get me wrong. It's just something about those two doesn't call to me. It doesn't appeal to me when I think about playing all the old games again. They're sort of fun bonuses to me. Again, this is just how I view them all, like not how Capcom classifies them or how you guys should all view them. Because to me, it's just like, because they came so late and they kind of came with the whole gimmick of, oh, look, we're going back to 8-bit. It sort of just feels like if they were to make like a full Mega Man collection, right? And they were like, here's Mega Man 1 through like base, right? Like there, perfect. Oh, and we're gonna throw in 9 and 10. These are bonuses. They feel like Game Boy entries to me almost, if that makes sense. So they're good games. I have a lot of fun playing them. They're just not the ones that I sort of keep on my list of like this is the stuff. You know what I mean? Andrew says, yeah, I main PC. I've been bouncing around through my hard mode replays of 7 Remake, Tales of Symphonia, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and playing BG3 and Persona 3 Reload. Okay, because I wasn't sure if that was mainly just a question because, I hope you're on PC so it's a little easier for you to play games during the move. But also, I wasn't sure if you were on PlayStation 5 as well, because I think you have one. I'm not entirely sure, but on it. Like, why does anybody have a PlayStation 5? I was talking with some friends yesterday. They were playing Helldivers while I was working, and one of them just got a PS5, and he's like super excited, and good for him. Again, if you're excited for it, go for it. But we were also starting to make jokes, and because he's buying it for like everything, right? He's not buying it just for the exclusives. He's not like that. It's going to be his like second console after his PC. But we were like, so like why though? Like, just get another PC. You had like one game on PlayStation 5, and that is Astro's Playhouse. That is the only game that's like exclusive, stays exclusive, and is worth playing. So the PS and there's been we sort of touched upon it a little bit last week that PlayStation has already said that the PS5 is halfway through its life cycle, and which means it's been about 3 or 4 years, which means we have another 3 or 4 years for this. So 2028, a new console generation. I don't know about you guys, but that's disastrous for PlayStation because they don't have a real killer app for their system, right? Spider-Man 2 is obviously, we all know it's going to come to PC, right? Like the other two did, Miles and Spider-Man 1. We already know that Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII, has a limited window of exclusivity. It's literally for like 3 months. It's till May 29th. 3 months almost to the date. God of War Ragnarok came to the PC. So I think it's like Returnal, which a lot of people were just like, I don't really care about. And then Astro's Playhouse, which is fun. Like, it's admittedly fun, but it's not it's not a game that you sell a system for. It's one of those ones you bundle in, and then 10 years later, when you have 2 console generations removed, you can re-release it as like an HD remake for $30 or something, and everybody goes, oh, I love that game. Holy crap, I'm going to go buy it again. Or I'm going to buy it for the first time. That's how you do something like Astros. So, yeah, that's just my funny take on PlayStation 5. I like this here. Both Dante and Shinkai said no to golf, but Dante says frisbee golf, different discussion. And then Shinkai says mini golf, now we're talking. So when I was in college, my school had a very, very big ultimate frisbee team, and one of my best friends in college was on the team, and I just sort of am like, I don't know, man. Like, it's a fun game. I get it, but I've also seen people get way too serious about frisbee golf, which again, like, I get that it's a competition, but at the same time, it's not for me. I'd much rather be casual when I'm playing with a frisbee. Mini golf, I could play if you give me a new course. So in Southern California, there used to be a bunch of like boomers and, oh gosh, what was the other one? Family fun centers, right? And then just like a bunch of independent mini golf courses when I was growing up. Most of those have shut down now and don't exist. And so I don't remember the last time I've played mini golf, much less anywhere new. So I'd be up for it. I'm sure I would. Yeah. Since we are here, first of all, Cajun Corey, my man, how is it going? Hello to you. Don't worry, I remember you're in the server with me now. I know we can talk on a regular basis. So, because Andrew reminded me of it down here, this is sort of what we were talking about earlier. So yeah, these, why can't I pull up like a good, just big shot of it? I hate Google Images nowadays. So, yeah, so like this is the packaging I'm talking about, where, you know, it was very bright, very blue. I remember seeing this a lot on the shelves. Like when you go to a Target or something, these are what the figures always were. They're not bad. They're just very... The way I would put it is that they're a good middle ground between like merchandising product, which is, you know, the kind of cheaper figures they throw out for movies and such, and the high-end ones. They're not fantastic, but they're fun. Probably a good solid 7 to 8 regularly for these ones. But yeah, these are the ones I always saw. And then I guess, yeah, now there are these McFarlane ones that have this blue packaging, like blue and black packaging, if you will. But we were talking earlier, and now I don't even remember why I talked about the figures in the first place, but now we're just going to talk about them because they're here. But man, like, look at this. Like, this is the Mattel one, right? This is the one that they first did, which is like very basic. It's an action figure. Okay, at least it's got wrist articulation. But then you go and you jump over to the McFarlane one, and it's just like, man, they put the like, he's shiny. He's got his hair has like shading and individual strands. It's such a stark difference. I don't know. I was blown away by it. But sort of to that point, like, I don't like this suit. This is Andrew's favorite suit for Wally. I hate the suit. Like, I do not like it. But I even told him, I was like, all right, I have to admit, that figure looks so, like, I don't even like McFarlane toys, right? But I looked at this and I was like, I got to admit, that looks good. Like, I'm happy you get that, because that looks genuinely good. The one weird thing, and this is just like a tangent, but I can't really understand this. And I'm sure Andrew knows exactly what I'm looking for, given that I'm like scrolling, but I'll probably just have to go to our Discord server. Or not your Discord server. Ooh. Perfect. This is awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Look at that. Andrew just shot me over a side-by-side shot of the two packagings. Yeah, so yeah, like, one's on the left. These are the ones I was familiar with. Right? Had no idea they existed, but man, dude, like, it looks really, really, really good. Except for this one thing where, where is it? We were talking about it a lot earlier this afternoon. This is also an aside. I need to like leave your Discord server, Andrew, because I have work to do, and I end up spending like 7 hours a day basically just chatting with you about bullshit. But okay, so let's see. This is what's on the back of the box, right? Like, sort of the collect all. So let me pull up the full back of it. Maybe. Yes. Open it up, please. Verify I'm human. Yes. So, I'm sure we've all bought toys before, right? And when you buy a toy, they generally have, like, collect all the line, and they show them in the back. And that's especially common with Build-A-Figure lines, like the Marvel Legends ones, because you kind of got to know who else you got to grab to buy the figure. So McFarlane toy, their new packaging does this, but it's super weird because, as you guys can see here, it says, like, okay, you have 4 like slots or 4 figure, or what am I trying to say? Like, there are 4 Build-A-Figure purchases you need to make to have the whole figure, right? Like the legs, the arm, the head, blah, 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 blah. And then it shows the snapping together. But then down here, it says collect them all. And if you guys see that, I'll scroll it in. It shows like this comic art, right? So like, obviously, that's Barry from the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's Spectre from, I believe, Crisis as well. I think that Superman might also be from Crisis too. That's a very George Perez Superman. But what's weird about this is that when we go to the actual packaging itself, where is it? Like, yeah, bring this up. So when you go to the actual packaging itself, that art they use here, like this shot of Wally running, it's just a collector's card that's like in the back of the bubble packing, like back there behind his hands. I don't know why they do it like that. It's just I just find it very odd. It feels like, I don't know, the Marvel Legends toys, they do it right. Or at least I like the way the Marvel Legends toys do it, because box, is that going to, yeah, that'll help me. Okay, so here's a vision. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I remember I kind of wanted this set because the Build-A-Figure is a void. But yes, if you guys can see here, they at least show the figures, which I think it makes it a more like comprehensive package. Like we're talking about the toy here. I don't know. It's just a weird thing I noticed, and I'm sure I'm nitpicking this and nobody else in the world has cared, but it's just such a weird thing to me. And this is my show. I can talk about whatever the hell I want. Where is that? Okay. Close that up. Let's see. Back to the chat. Ravul says the Warhammer 40K series of McFarlane toys look great. I haven't seen those. I've mainly only seen the Batman ones. I've seen some of their horror stuff, but I feel like their horror stuff gets over detailed. And so you lose a lot of like what makes the monster scary or intimidating or its character. So again, I'm not necessarily against McFarlane Toys. I know they do make quality figures. Obviously, you guys just heard me compliment a figure of a character's costume that I hate. I personally lean more heavily towards like Japanese figures, the SH Figuarts and stuff, right? So that is just a personal preference and taste. And that's sort of what I was saying back at the top is, like, this is how we should be able to engage. I like what I like. You like what I like. We can still talk. I can give my opinion. You can give your opinion. Nobody's going to go cry foul and try to start whisper campaigns or any of that stupid crap. Awful. Awful, awful, awful. Eccentric Banana says, they're Power Rangers now, referring to the Spartans. And yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. They legitimately are Power Rangers now. There's also a change to the lore they made where sort of anybody can become a Spartan now at any point in their life, where beforehand, like, Chief is a Spartan 3, right? And that meant that was the third iteration of the Spartan program. They had gone through 2 classes, if you will, and they worked, but they were still really, really rough, and they had all these like health problems. And then 3 was where they were like, all right, we need to get these kids, like, we need to train them as kids. We can't go in when they're already soldiers. We need to get them as children so that we can, break their bones, put in all the stuff, and it grows with them, and yada, 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 yada. But now, like, that's how Buck was able to become a Spartan. They just said, all right, come with us. Like, do you want to be a Spartan now? Okay, cool. Ta-da! Tehillim says, early Halo was like playing a Starship Troopers type game with some minor story changes. That's the thing, is imagine if we took Starship Troopers and, so in Starship Troopers, you know how, it's not in the movies by Verhoeven, but it's in the, it's in the books, it's in the mangas, it's in the animes, it's in the video games, it's in all that stuff. But the Starship Trooper faction, which I'm forgetting, they have power armor, essentially. It's very much power armor like Ridley's from Aliens, where it's not like a mecha thing. It's more like a harness, and it's got like Edge of Tomorrow. Has anybody seen Edge of Tomorrow, the Tom Cruise movie? That sort of rig is sort of the thing I'm talking about. So they have that, and that's how, they can fight the bugs and blah, blah, blah. It's cool when you get to see them, but it also still is like, okay, yes, this squad has the suits, but they're still outnumbered by bugs. What's going to get them? Oh, it's still harrowing. Now imagine if there were 900 of those soldiers. They all had perfectly functioning suits, and the bugs sort of just like waited for them to come attack. That's where we've gotten to this point. I think the Power Rangers comparison from Eccentric is on point, because think about like in a Power Rangers fight, right? Red Ranger fights, yeah, but the putties all stand around waiting for their chance to attack instead of just ganging up on them at once. And that's sort of what we saw in that trailer. Like the second that Spartan jumped on board, all of those Covenant should have swarmed. Nobody should have stood there like, huh? What? Oh, maybe I should react now. Like, it's so bad. Why? I don't know. Mass appeal, lack of creative talent, no clue. But it's there, and it's really, really bad. Side note, we have, if you guys are interested in more Halo, what's the word? Like theorycraft, or not even theorycraft. So the Halo TV show, it's out. Season 2 has started. I hear it's getting better, but I really don't care. I'll wait till the end and then I'll review it or something. But we have a contributor on Bounding Into Comics, a screenwriter named Selver Kavich, and he also runs a YouTube channel called Narrative Arcade. He recently put out a video last week about why Hollywood just cannot adapt Halo. And he tackles it from like a writer's, screenwriter's perspective. Very, very interesting stuff, very, very academic stuff, but it's a really good video. I recommend you guys go check it out. He gave us a write-up on Bounding, so that's also there if you want to see it. But the cool thing, the reason I brought it up, is his video actually got a full-on retweet and endorsement from freaking Marty O'Donnell, the composer for Halos 1 through 4. Or actually, no. Yeah, like Halos 1 through 3, and then the Destiny series. So like, so he retweeted Selver's video and he's like, nails it on the head. Like, this is exactly right. And and me and Selver were both like, what? This is the coolest thing in the freaking world. So yeah, just a cool little shout out I'll throw out there. Fletcher, first of all, Fletcher, what is up, my buddy? He asked, but do they jump around to House of Pain? Honestly, throw that in there. Put House of Pain in anything. You're going to, you've got $1 million idea on your hand. I don't care what it is. Yeah, no, so I'm right there behind you, Fletcher. Let's see. Oh, Andrew weighs in on the Halo 5 story. He says, this isn't nearly what bothered me about Halo 5's story. They wound up doing something that no longer set the universe apart from virtually every sci-fi franchise. Ermagerd, AI bad now. So, I agree and I disagree to a certain extent. Because the AI bad stuff, so it was actually a real... That stuff... All right, let me rephrase. I'm clearly stumbling over myself because I've got 900 things to say. So that element of Halo has always been there since the very beginning. The entire point of the AIs is that they're so advanced, but that like that's the advantage, is they're really advanced. They can help you with all your, targeting systems, yada yada. But they're so advanced that after a set period of time, they start getting existential and it drives them insane. And once they go insane, you have to shut them down or they become a big problem. Now, usually that restricted itself to UNSC stuff, right? It's like, oh, this AI has been in operation for 30 years. He's going nuts. We can't have him piloting our ship anymore. Put him out of commission. Or, oh, this AI was supposed to be helping with communications. For some reason, he's inserting random emojis into our messages now for a personality, and we need to take him offline. So that element's always sort of been there. And then there has always been an element of, what are we going to do with Cortana when that time comes? Right? It's explored a lot more in the books than it is the video games, obviously, because that's the nature of perspective. Now, so like, I actually like the concept of Cortana going rampant and taking over a UNSC fleet. I think that could have been something really cool if you stuck with that. I agree with you that putting her in charge of like, oh, look, she's taken over techno civilizations and she's an all-spanning god power now. That to me, I'm just like, yeah, that's what everybody does. And it's also boring because there's so many other options you could have done that weren't just, oh, she's Messiah, like Space Messiah now. So half and half with you there. Tehillim says he stopped playing Halo 3 around 3 to 5. I mean, I closed out with 3 and I played 4. And then after 4, I played the campaign to 4 and went, no, like, it takes, like, there are very few moments in life where I've just gone, like, I'm absolutely, completely done with you. Like, to the point where I will no longer engage, period. And that was one of those moments where I was just like, I am done with 343 Halo altogether. I don't want anything to do with any of this. And it's guided me right so far. Infinite was fun to play, but then that was for like a month or two, and then they abandoned it pretty much. And now all they do is add like Black History Month skins in. It's really bad over there at 343. And good luck keeping that as one of your flagship studios. Yeah, okay, so they are all Crisis on Infinite Earth figures. I knew they all were. I just wasn't sure if that artwork was coming from Crisis specifically, because that Wally one is super updated and nice, and then the other 3 are George Perez era from Crisis. So, and then, yeah, right there, Andrew says, I wasn't initially planning on grabbing the entire Crisis set, but my OCD is kicking, and I'm literally staring at the pre-order page. Look, I actually, like, I have OCD as well, like, and I'm not going to stand here and say don't do it. I would feel the exact same if I were you. It is a problem. Yeah, SH Figure Arts bother me with their scale, but the detail is beautiful. What's the right term here? I'm sort of okay with its scale because they at least make them scalable to their own sets, right? Like, all the One Piece figures are scaled to One Piece. All the Kamen Riders are scaled to all the other Kamen Riders. All the Dragon Balls are all scaled to Dragon Balls. They might be off to each other a little bit, but they're at least cool with each other. So as long as I throw them in like different display cases, I can keep my OCD from flaring up. Was it 2 and 3? Okay, are you sure John's a 2? I believe you, but I feel like he's a 3. Let me see. What Spartan class is Chief? Oh yeah, he is 2. Okay. I wasn't sure. Like, it's been so long since I went through every ranking of, or like every class, I guess is what you would call it, every scale, whatever it's called. The chart. I haven't gone through the chart in a while, so I had forgotten. But yes, thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, John's a Spartan 2. Spartan 3s have the major health issues. Spartan 4s aren't nearly as powerful, but they're basically, the microwave Spartans. Yeah, and that's probably the better way to put it. And then 1s were like, you could walk for a minute, and then you basically like turned to goop, and we probably shouldn't talk about you. And like 3 of them made it to the field. Volume Dealer asks, what's that Build-A-Figure? If we're talking about the one that's still up right now, it is the Void, which is the other half to the Sentry. Essentially, so if you guys don't know the Sentry, he's basically Marvel Superman, but his entire thing is that while he's super powerful and a hero, the trade-off is that he also has to hold back the Void, which is just this evil, pure power. It shows up at the end of Siege, where I believe that's where this comes from. Here, let's see. Siege, Marvel, Void. That's what I want. Yeah, see, he like shows up here. So like he's pretty, I think he's a pretty cool design. And the fact that they made the figure translucent, I was like, ooh, I don't even collect Marvel Legends, but damn, do I want that. Like, if I found somebody on eBay just selling the Void Build-A-Figure, I would probably snap that up in a heartbeat. Because I just think this guy looks really cool. Eccentric Banana says, that's right, Revul. That's right. Sergeant Johnson is a Spartan 1. That's what it was. Okay, that's right. He's like one of, if the only, like, people who made it out of that okay. Thank you. Dang, I'm glad there are other Halo people in the chat. That makes me happy. And Noble 6 is a Spartan 3. Yeah, we knew that one. Yeah, even Bill Cosby can be a Spartan now if he really wanted to. Cortana was different, Andrew, but she wasn't completely different. There was always the question of, like, will she or won't she? We don't know. So that was always there. It just wasn't until 4 where they really decided, like, what do we need for a villain? Okay, let's go Cortana. Because they also introduced the stupid Forerunners. And I hate everything about the Forerunner enemy design. I hate the fact that we saw them at all. I hate Halo 4. Let's put it that way. Sorry, Andrew. I wasn't saying, like, it's in the books as a condescending thing. I was just clarifying, like, that's where they are in case you hadn't read them. But, because that's where they detail all of that stuff. Andrew says, I played all but Infinite. I just haven't had any interest in it. Reach is my favorite. So I played Infinite just because it was free. Like, literally, it was free, and my friends were like, oh, a multiplayer game? Do you guys want to check it out? So I jumped on it. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy the campaign because I'm not paying for any of this crap until they prove that it's worth spending money on. And guess what? They didn't. They absolutely didn't. Everything they tried to make Halo fresh in Infinite was either just retreads of the old story or just the worst gameplay decisions. Like, everything about that open world was just a big misstep by Bungie. And yes, I agree with you. Reach is my favorite. I know that I don't know. I have yet to understand why it is not, like, why does it get so much disdain? I genuinely don't know. You bring up a Halo conversation and Reach is almost always like, oh yeah, we like Halo 1 through 3, but Reach is, and I'm like, it has an amazing story. It has the best gameplay. It has a jetpack. What more do you want? It has one of the coolest features that was only in that game, and I wish they would bring it back, but it had the it had the assassinations, where if you were behind somebody, instead of just meleeing them and auto-killing them, you could, like, hold down the melee and you could do an animation. It would take a little longer, but you got more points, and or not points, that's not the right word, but you got a different like medal, right? Like I think that's what they're still called. Yeah, the different, like, the triple kill, double kill, those medals. Like, you got a special one for doing an assassination, and I just thought it was really cool. And I'm really sad that they never brought that back. But yes, I'm with you. Reach to me is the best one. The one thing I'm disappointed in Reach about, though, is that if you are on the Mongoose with another Spartan, neither of you two can do the Toy Story thing where you turn on your jetpack and fly off the ground. It disappoints me every single time I try it, because it just feels like that's something that we should be able to do. Eccentric Banana asks, did McFarlane make an All Might action figure? If so, I had that one. He was pretty cool looking. He has. McFarlane is doing a line of My Hero Academia toys. They've started leaning into anime. Let's see. I'll pull it up. McFarlane, All Might. Why is Google bad at giving images on everything? Every single thing I ever want to look at. Yeah, so that was the one from McFarlane. Pretty standard. Probably a good mold. I haven't physically, I've actually never seen this in person. I've never seen it in a shelf or anything. So I can't even give a read of that. The one thing I will say about this line in particular is that I always thought it was weird that they didn't really accessorize, right? You got open hand, closed hand. That's it. And it sort of is sort of the same across the board. I don't know why. I feel like you could have added some special effects, even if it's just like a swoosh for the fist to be going, because if we go back to the where is it? This Wally one. Whoops, I took the Wally one away. I made it its own window. If we go back to this bad boy, he's got pretty good lightning effects included, especially when you compare it to what he was getting in this one, right? What is that? That's just liquid metal. It's nth metal, if you will. And then you go to the McFarlane toys and you get actual lightning bolts. So that always struck me as weird. I did like that McFarlane did this. They did this, and I had to give him kudos because I was like, that's pretty funny. Boop, 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 boop. So they are the only manufacturer thus far to make a toy for Toru from My Hero Academia, and it's this. I got a pretty decent laugh out of this. This is actually how they sell it. When you display it, it is just her hands in her shoes. Pretty damn funny. Good on McFarlane. Let's see. What movie are you guys talking about that we didn't like? I'm not entirely sure. I kind of want to know. I think it might be... Oh, are we talking... Weird. Yeah, let me know what you guys are talking about. And the card art is from Rebirth. Thank you. But yeah, see, that's way more recent than... Or Wally's card art was Rebirth, which is way more recent than Crisis. Oh, you guys are talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths, Part 1. Oh, okay. I think, I'll weigh in on this too. I am not a big fan of it. I liked seeing the crime syndicate. That was always, it's just, I don't know. I kind of like seeing them all the time. The new version of Superwoman that they've been doing since the New 52, where she's basically like dominatrix Wonder Woman. I'm all about it. I know if Jay Lee's in here, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He always gets on my case because it's exactly the kind of woman that's right up my alley that will destroy my life. But so the movie is fine. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't want to say it's fine. I like that moment. I like the crime syndicate. Everything else, it feels very weird because it's not Crisis, and there's really no reason for them to avoid just adapting the Crisis narrative. And then the animation, I've not been a fan of so this era, they're calling it the Tomorrowverse because it's the first movie was Man of Tomorrow, Superman. I'm just not a fan of this animation style. It feels lazy. It feels like budgets were cut. It feels like just there's no more effort being put into DC's animated stuff, especially after coming off of something so ambitious as the I forget the name for it, but the one that had like Justice League Apocalypse War, Justice League Darkseid War, Rebirth, the one that started with Flashpoint. That universe, that was Volume Dealer referred to Crisis Part 1 as an anime, which it's not quite, because it's a Western animation, but I feel that the post Flashpoint movies, those were pretty anime inspired with their effects and their framing and their composition. What we get nowadays from the Tomorrowverse films just feels more like Flash animation, right? Like if you guys know, if I can communicate the feel that way. I don't think I have the words for it right quite yet, but it's that very smooth, uncanny Flash, low detail look to it that I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Oh yes, thank you, Ravul. Promethean, not Forerunner. The Promethean enemies. Yes, those were all stupid. My friend Duck. First of all, what is up, Duck? He asked, "Isn't Xbox dead?" And yeah, it kind of is, because. So yeah, we can probably get into that. Let me pull up a good visual for us to look at. Duck also says Helldivers is what Halo aspires to be. I've heard that. Like, I've heard the game is really good. I do want to give it a chance. I'm just, if you come to me and you try to sell me a game on the basis of, oh, we have gear stats, I am going to start writing out my note, like my suicide note right here, because I couldn't play that game at all. So let's bring up this image. Cool. This is a good one to look at, and this is the one I was thinking of. So, I'm going to close out the chat real quick because we're really close to closing out the chat, and then we can get on to this. And also, I like how you bring up that Cortana is used, the Duck, as a chat thing, but that thing has been... So, they discontinued that a million years ago, or at least like 2 years ago. If you guys have I think it's like Windows 10 PC or higher, that Cortana came installed default because everybody thought it was going to be Microsoft Siri. It went the way of the dodo. It doesn't exist anymore. I can't get rid of the damn program. It's still here. No matter how many times I try to remove it, I'm probably going to have to go like kernel level and like find out how to remove it, because it won't go away. Even though when I hit it, like if I'm like, okay, Cortana, open, it says this product discontinued. Please visit Microsoft Help for more info. And it's like, okay, cool. Not helpful whatsoever. Eccentric said he had that McFarlane All Might, but he had the red outfit. I'm not entirely familiar with all of them, but that's cool. I do like the red outfit. That lighting looks like semen. Oh man, what were we? Were you talking about? Oh no, the lightning looks like semen. Yeah, it looks really, really bad. And then you get to McFarlane, and it's like, oh wow, real lightning bolts, and he looks pretty cool with them. Like they work really, really well. Andrew says, if I had to guess as to why it's not the My Hero Academia toys don't have a lot of accessories or other parts, he says, if I had to guess, McFarlane was still feeling out the market with their My Hero Academia stuff. That's a really good point. I didn't consider that. I think that probably has, if not a lot, if not everything, a lot, like 89% to do with a lot of things. I would sort of just push back to McFarlane. Then, like, not you, I think you're on point. But if I were in that boardroom during that discussion, I would have maybe pushed back a little bit on McFarlane and gone like, I hear you. I hear you. But also, like, one of the things that really sells anime is its like flashiness. So what if we, instead of different hands, we give them one effect? Something? And that's just in basic marketing, because again, I'm trying to work in that parameters of what you said, Andrew, where they probably don't want to spend too much because they don't know how the market's going to turn out, especially them. Like it's a smart move by them, especially considering, if they want to compete in the anime figure market, they're not leaping into a relatively small market, right? They're not just competing with the awful Dragon Stars figures. Have you guys seen these things? I forget who makes them. I think they're just, I think it's straight up Bandai makes them, but they are like they're essentially the like Bandai's Marvel Legends versions of Dragon Ball toys, but they're just weird. They don't feel right. They feel really cheap. Like see, like it's a toy, but it feels like something feels off about his face. The energy doesn't feel right there. It, you know, and like even there in the package, it looks worse, right? Like, again, this feels like it was designed by somebody who worked in the 90s and was like, make something that parodies anime, teehee, and they shot out their eyes really big. And so like that line, like this is your main competition in the West, sure, but one, you've got you've got Bandai's other operations like their Figuarts or their Shotokons or every other Japanese toy manufacturer, Kyotech, Mafex, so many of these that blow your stuff out of the water that, yeah, I can see why McFarlane wasn't ready to go all in. And like looking at the McFarlane toy and looking at this and then like looking at the Figuarts I have sitting up on my shelf, I sort of feel like the problem with these Western figures is that they're too, what's the right word? Like the plastic doesn't feel right. The plastic feels like it wasn't painted. It just, I don't know. It just feels cheap. Cheap is the right word. I've been trying to put words to this for months and I still just genuinely don't know where I want to go with it. But yeah, so good, understandable move on McFarlane. If they stay in it, I genuinely don't know how those figures did, but if they stay in it, I would like to see something a little more flashier, if not at least the inside of their packaging, because that, like the All Might, it's just yellow. Yeah, like throw in some speed lines back there or something, and it'll make very, 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 very easy. Yeah, Archer-esque animation. That's a really good way to put it, Andrew. It's Archer-esque, which, that kind of tying it back together, Archer was sort of inspired by Flash animation. That's sort of where Frisky Dingo and I forget the guy's name who made it, like Adam, what's his name? That's sort of where they got their start doing that stuff. So you can kind of see where that carried over. And that's very much what I was trying to get at. It's very stiff, a lot of just not a lot of dynamicism. This is like the second week in a row I've not been able to get that word out. Dynamicism. So, that's all. I'm basically just agreeing with you, and I like the use of Archer-esque for that description. Volume Dealer asks, Superwoman is always Diana, not Lois, correct? In the Crime Syndicate, it was Diana, but nowadays, since the New 52, it's been Lois. So like all the ones in the black leotard that you've seen lately, that is Lois. She was the one in the she's in the Crisis movie, but she was also in another one of the pre-Tomorrowverse animated films. I remember. I can't remember which one, but I remember she was in it. On Prime Earth it was Lana. Yeah, Andrew's got you. If I'm not getting to your question in time, tag Andrew. He's like the exact same encyclopedic knowledge of what I've got. Talem says, the anime I've been watching is finishing off My Hero Academia plus Eden Zero, watching 7 Deadly Sins on last season, working on finishing Vinland Saga Season 2. So, I've not watched any of those, or I've watched some of My Hero Academia. I've read them all. I haven't watched them. But I say that to mainly to talk about Vinland Saga because I love that series to death, and I'm really glad you're experiencing it because I just love Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is one of those series where like I picked it up, I was gripped, like I flipped through it, and then when I realized after like 2 or 3 days that I was already on the last volume, or the last up-to-date volume because it's still ongoing, I was like, I voluntarily put it down and stopped, and I'm letting more volumes build up because I'm like, I didn't want it to end. The story is so good. So that's a really good show. I'm glad you're loving it. Eden Zero, always fun. 7 Deadly Sins. I have a lot to catch up on, especially with like all the 4 Nights of the Apocalypse stuff that's all happening. Nerdigans, if you want info on that, on the 7 Deadly Sins stuff, Nerdigans, like she is a fount of that, like, she is basically the fan wiki walking. Like, it's impressive and also terrifying at times. Do, 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 do. Yeah, and Andrew says, I definitely don't disagree with the having the trading out a hand for a sword or an effect or something, but this is a new market for McFarlane. Yeah, exactly. Like I would have just said that at the business meeting, but it's not one of those decisions where I'm just like, you totally messed up here. Like, big miss, big miss. It's more just something where I'm like, maybe this would have helped a little, because I'm right there with you. You don't want to just dive into that market. Yeah, the Dragon Stars are awful, and they keep like putting them everywhere. Andrew, where's that Goku? Did I close it? Oh no, he's an Amazon window. Like, there's your Goku. Who else can we look at? Let's look at. Oh, the Trunks one is really bad. I remember looking at it. Wow! Like, it's just, I don't know. It's so terrible. I don't know why you need to have the joints exposed like that. Like, here, as always, I've got my Super Saiyan 4 Goku here, right? And this is the Figure Arts, but his joint, like, you can see his elbow joint, but none of these other weird holes that you see on, like, Trunks. His legs fill out. It's so bizarre. And then, like, look at the sort of, like, very basic level detail on Trunks' sword. It doesn't feel like it feels like I would get that if I went to the corner store and I bought, like, Wrestle Avenger Figure Man, and he came with 5 accessories, and it's like a skateboard, a helicopter blade, a sword. You know what I'm talking about? Like, just the really cheap bootleggy toys. That's what Trunks feels like to me. Then you go to Goku Black, and it's still basically the same. I'll admit, Goku Black's a little better. A little better. Well, he was from that. He was from straight on, and then once you, like, turn him just slightly, he gets completely awful. Price point, McFarlane is also not competing in the same market. Let me ask you about that real quick, Andrew. So when you say they're not competing in the same market, do you mean they're not competing in the same market as, like, Figure Arts toys or as, like, Dragon Stars toys? Just so I can know what we're talking about. Yeah, and no, it is at least I consider it a compliment, Andrew, to say you have the same level of encyclopedic comic knowledge that I have, because, again, like I said at the top, it is very rare that I have been able to talk to somebody who was able to match wits with me on comics. Obviously, meeting everybody in this community, whether it's like Tehillim or like Josh, like I've met more people, but I'm always up for meeting more people where I can be like, remember this artist? Remember this run? Remember this one specific panel? Do you remember how weird that one detail was in this one panel? And they go, oh yeah. Nope, that was super weird. I know exactly what you're talking about. Tehillim says, I think I enjoy Four Knights of the Apocalypse a little more than Seven Deadly Sins, but I do have characters and favorite characters in Seven Deadly Sins. Here's the thing. I'm not completely caught up, but I can never get, and I don't know her name. I'm bad at their names, but the giant girl, she's a waifu from Seven Deadly Sins. Like, I love her, and she's not in the second, so I don't know how I feel about Four Knights yet. Yeah, I know I was being very... Andrew says, what detail? I know, I was being very, 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 very generous. I mean, they at least painted the blue different than the orange, right? Like, it's a detail. It's not a great detail. Doesn't mean it's a great job, but if I'm a lawyer, I can technically put that down, that my figure has detail. And yeah, Timon, it's like... It's their faces where they all get really, really awkward. And I don't understand what happens over there. Especially because this is Bandai. You own these licenses. I don't know, maybe use cheaper plastics in the Figure Arts molds. I don't know. But it is bizarre that this is a line that they not only keep producing, but they like present this as like a collectible line, if you will. For example, a couple weeks back, you guys might remember, I went to the Bandai trading card game Nationals to play One Piece and the new Dragon Ball game. When I was there, they had obviously merch booths where you could go and, for example, the One Piece merch booth, you could get any starter deck, any booster pack, whatever you wanted, Some regular offerings that they had in their store that, like, you could buy them on, you could probably get them on Amazon right now or whatever, but they were thematic. It was like model kits of various pirate ships and stuff. And then they also had exclusive figures that were these massively, like I'm talking like this tall. Okay, that doesn't really help because the camera is only so much, but like taller than what I'm showing you right now, statues of like Katakuri and Yamato and Luffy, and those were selling over there on the One Piece side, and those were event exclusives. Can't find them anywhere else. Made sense. You go over to the Dragon Ball side, and they've got all the cards, but then they've got an entire wall of Dragon Stars figures, and it's like, who is buying? I don't think I saw one person buy a figure that weekend. I'm sure it happened, but that's to say there was, I didn't see anybody running over to look at the stock. I didn't see anybody freaking out about, we got to go get in line to get a Dragon Stars. This is, it's sort of like I keep saying with Madame Web, where Madame Web, you wanted to make it to keep the rights or whatever. Sure, make it. Don't put it out. Just vault it if you have to. This is sort of like, you want to make these figures and hit that sort of lower price point market. Sure, go for it. But also don't try to present these as the awesome McFarlane essentially level toys that they are. You know what I mean? Okay, so. And then, yes, Diane, thank you, Tehillim. That's who it is. And then she said, Tehillim says, King and Diane are probably my favorite couple. Oh, yeah, hell yeah. Absolutely. Right there, because you're a man of taste. So here's what Andrew had to say to answer my question about what he was talking about. He says, so to break that down, when McFarlane first dove into the toy market, they produced toys that were slightly larger than other current manufacturers, but also just a bit more pricey as well. The toy market where anime stuff is concerned has some crazy expensive stuff and super cheap stuff, so I think he might be trying to carve out a niche in a sort of upper lower price point market, that 26 to 40 market. That's the way my marketing business background brain looks at it, at least, because I don't want see him wanting to compete with SH Figuarts, Revoltech, or PlayArts Kai. Okay, so there's a lot to get there, and I'm glad you explained it. So my initial question was because I do notice that these figures tend to rest in the 30 to 40, sometimes 50. Like, I think that Wally was the cool Wally, the one you have. I feel like that was wherever it was these days. I don't have it in front of me. I thought I had it open in a window. Oh well. Well, maybe we can just find it here. Multiverse Flash Wally West McFarlane. What? Is that? How is he 20? That's different. Okay, that's news to me. So now I'm sort of in a weird spot, because here's where I started. I was going to start this sentence is like, you look at, Wally, your Wally here, the red Wally. You also look at like the Ezra Miller Wally down there. You look at Impulse over here, and they're ranging in like the 30 to 40 ground, right? So my initial point was going to be, if I was making sure you weren't saying that McFarlane was trying to compete with Dragon Stars, because I was going to say these are way out of that. Like, this is a step above the Dragon Stars. That's what I was making sure. As for the price point in comparison to Japanese products, I'm right there with you. I think with a $40 sort of base zone for their standard figures, that is the niche they are trying to carve out. And I definitely think that it is a smart move. But I also... Yeah, like, what was I going to say? Like, it's a smart move. Again, I'm sort of still on that point of the My Hero figures not having any accessories. Again, we know there's a reason behind that. I'm not harping on it. It's just, I'm just letting you guys know it's like the thing my brain keeps like going back to. But yeah, I think they are good alternatives to that, the Figuarts or the Mafex or any of those lines. I definitely think you are on point there, Andrew, and I'm sort of blown away now, because I thought this Wally figure is pretty, like, it's good looking, and I'm surprised it's only $20, and its list price is only $25. I guess that's I'm surprised, because I thought all of them sort of ran. Oh, that just looks like Cyborg. That's awful. I thought all of them ran in that 40 $10-ish price range. And so yeah, that's where I was thinking with that. But now with this new information, I think that's an even more successful model, is to slot right perfectly in there and not really try to compete with them. McFarlane's also lucky, because while the main topic of this discussion was their anime, dipping their toes in the anime market with My Hero. They do pretty much have like the Western DC market locked. You still have, I think Mattel still does a couple figures here or there, but McFarlane's the main one. And it's not just DC. I know like they do like movie figures, they do TV figures, like they're expanding. They have a lot going on now. So I think, like, again, I'm behind them. I think they can do really good work. If somebody got me like a figure, like a McFarlane figure, I'd probably really enjoy it, and I wouldn't say no. It's just, for my personal taste, I want to lean a little more. I tend to lean a little more anime-y, so like I go for the figure arts and stuff. But the McFarlanes are really good. So keep it up, Todd. I hope your anime, you do provide a good anime sort of competitor, because these things, and again, I just remembered, like, the Dragon Stars line, there's another line. Yeah, this one is so weird. I don't understand this one. So yeah, we saw the Dragon Stars, which are just specifically for Dragon Ball, right? But then there's also this line called Anime Heroes, right? And it's the same thing, but you can sort of see this is not, yeah. So like, yeah, here's one. Here's a Luffy. We'll take a look at this Luffy. It's all sort of just that same cheat. This one looks a little better than the Goku, admittedly, but still, all the joints on the outside. This is almost like a weirder excuse, because, like, notice here, there's only 4 hands for Luffy. This is not Bandai dipping their toes into a new market like Andrew was talking about. This is a market that Bandai has. So for them to not even include even a basic, like, inch-long, like, rubber arm extension just feels super weird to me. And so you get this sort of cheap feeling across the line. Right? Here's their Sanji, where it just feels very blasé, very fine. Like, again, these, I will admit, these ones that we're looking at do look a little bit better than the Dragon Ball ones, but you can still sort of see that lack of real care or detail. You know which one is bad? Here. Ichigo is bad. I remember seeing Ichigo and being like, oof, this needs to go back to the drawing board. Right? Like this, I don't understand what happened here. They like softened all of his hair. Now he's got like the, like this is like what you give a black kid in like an animated show for like dreads. Like that's what he is wearing now. And it just looks so awful. But yeah, like, again, if they were just being honest and like, this is what we're putting in Targets for kids and it's $15, $12, cool. But it's, you know, they tend to run a little pricey for what you're getting. They do all sort of tend to go in the $20 range. That Sabo looks really weird. I can't really tell you what's wrong with him. Oh, that Gojo. This Gojo just looks oddly proportioned. And then see, like, you can see in his face, he has less colors to his character, but you can also sort of see that lack of paint detailing where everything, like on Goku, is just flat. Right? I think that's a lot of what it is that the paint job they give to these lower priced figures, it's not matte, but it lacks like a sheen. So everything comes off feeling like very industrial plastic rather than like prestige presentation plastic. And so, yeah, it just leaves the entire affair already feeling off, like from the get-go. Andrew says, that Wally was less than 30. I think I paid 28 for him. I'm really surprised at that. Like, I don't know why. That just seems... I definitely would have easily pegged him in 40. Like, that you know, if you'd have just come to me off the street and said, what do you think this figure reasonably would have gone for? And you told me it was like McFarlane, right? And you just gave me that base info. I probably would have guessed 40 to 45-ish bucks. pretty good. You said you had all these ones, Andrew? Did you build the Black Flash? Because that would be kind of, I'm sure he's in storage right now, but once you move, I'd be up to see that. That'd probably be really cool. McFarlane's figures are nice, says Andrew. They're nice enough that you can display them in a case or diorama if you want, or give them to an older kid teen. Yeah, and I think they're doing really well in gliding right through there, in making it not too cheap, not too expensive, good for collectors, but also good to sort of get as a present. I mean, I've bought a couple Marvel Legends, or not Marvel Legends, but McFarlane DC toys for some of the Bounding staff to say, Merry Christmas, thanks for your work. Like, they're good figures. I don't get me wrong. Yes. Okay. I thought you had the entire Build-A-Figure. Yeah. If you ever get a shot or have one lying around of that completed Black Flash, I think that would be really cool to see. You guys can see his arms there. But yeah, just a neat little figure. Andrew says, I've only seen the first 2 seasons of My Hero Academia. I got disappointed when I was told Momo stays mostly useless. Here's the thing. I like the series. I think it does a lot right. I think it's a really good series. Whoa, there goes the adapter so I can hear everything. I think it's a really good series for, like, introducing people to anime, or for newer anime viewers, younger anime viewers, teenage anime viewers. I think it's a really good series. However, it does very much suffer from the shonen problem of, here's a bunch of cool characters that you really like, right? Well, here's Goku. And here's 7 versions of Goku that we're going to focus on now. Like, it's rare, admittedly, that a manga or a series of any kind really pulls off such big, like, expansive cast. One Piece is, comes to mind, but that's a very rare exception. Yeah, I would say My Hero Academia, you get all these cool characters and they play some roles, but as the story starts, like, going further and further, it really just becomes the Deku-centric thing. Which, I mean, if if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. If it works for you, it works for you. Like, I'm not trying to convince you to read it. I'm just more saying, like, I get it. Like, I get why it would be off-putting, especially when you like these other characters, right? Like, I mean, I can speak from a perspective of Dragon Ball. Like, Yamcha was my favorite for the longest time. Still is after Trunks now, but, like, for the longest time, Yamcha was my boy. And it took literally one saga. It took Saiyan Saga of Z for him to be useless. And nowadays, it's just Goku Vegeta forever. But Yamcha's still kind of around. He's still technically there. That's a really good point, Andrew. I forgot about that. Andrew says, I may have to purchase a second full set of that Build-A-Figure so I can keep one sealed. I forgot you keep them sealed. Yeah, and then Andrew says, I felt like Naruto did it well for the most part, but even that missed opportunities with Shino and some of the others. So when I was looking for examples, I was going to say Naruto, but I do think near the end, once you get to, like, the big war, I think you don't go so much like Naruto and Sasuke only, but you do sort of focus only on, like, the commanders, and while the other characters show up, they're just sort like, they're there and they're fighting and they're helpful, but they're not leading anything. They're not, like, getting focus or attention. So that was really the only, like, caveat I had, but I do think for the most part Naruto does pull that off well as well, except they will never bring back Rock Lee being drunk. It's the best fight. Like, the drunken fist from Rock Lee was the best thing ever, and they're never, ever, 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 ever going to bring that to back. Like, it makes me so disappointed. He used it all of once. But I think that's a really, really, Wolf Fang fist forever. And then he has the spirit ball where he can. Andrew says, I was super happy that Shippuden made Sakura a badass bitch. So I do too. And I also like that they went and they were able to make her badass without making her have to be a, Super Saiyan level frontline fighter like Sasuke and Naruto. Like, I like that she went with Tsunade to learn, like, ninja healing and ninja magics over, summoning techniques and stuff. That's complement each other instead of trying to one-up each other. I thought that was really cool. Kiramaru versus Drunken Lee, so fun, so cool. And then like Guy does it. I think Guy does it in Shippuden, right? I have to go back and reread the series. Like it's been so long. But I think that's a really, really good place for us to switch over to a topic, because I just realized we've just been going off of chatting so far. But let's talk about this news. So, in case you guys didn't see the news today, I'm sure anybody watching the stream probably already has. It's kind of the biggest story of the day. But the live-action Naruto movie has finally found its director. So, quick recap of the situation before we come to today. This project was actually announced all the way back in 2015. So, in 2015, Lionsgate got the rights to a live-action Naruto film, and they greenlit the project, and they got the director. I'm totally blanking on his name right now. It's in this article. Let's scroll down and find it. His name, Michael Gracie, was the original director who was attached to helm Naruto. He is the director of The Greatest Showman. That's pretty much the biggest credit I can give to his name right now. The script was also, so at the time, announced in 2015, directed by the Greatest Showman director, produced by Avi Arad and his brother, Avi Arad and Ari Arad through Arad Productions. You guys, I'm sure, know those guys. They were producers on, or at least Avi was a producer on most Marvel stuff that you see, whether it was from the 2000s to today. He is a very big Marvel producer. And then the script was set to be provided by Tasha Howe, who a possibly familiar name to some of you. You might know her as the currently attached writer for the upcoming Red Sonja movie, which who knows how that's going to happen, if it'll ever happen. It's already gone through like 7 directors and 4 leads and millions of different scripts. So development hell for sure with that one. But she's also her other biggest credit is as a staff writer on the 4-episode miniseries known as The Witcher Blood Origins. Now, I don't know how many of you guys actually engaged with that particular show because, right, like I know a lot of people here have watched The Witcher or played The Witcher, read The Witcher. However, Blood Origin is a completely wholly original series from Netflix set in the world of The Witcher, right? It's them trying to expand and build on their own canon. So with that, the series has nothing to do with Andrzej Sapkowski's original novels. It's complete it is, think of all the bad writing tropes you can think of in media today, from telling everything instead of showing to ham-fisted political screeds in it. All of it was in there, right? It is a disaster of a show. Nobody really liked it. I'm not a giant Witcher fan. I'm familiar with the series, but I have friends who are diehard Witcher fans, and they got they got angry in the same way our sphere gets angry about Marvel, right? I had never seen them get actually have such a strong opinion on a change made to something. So it all that to say that series was not good. So that's what Naruto was originally looking at. Production by Avi Arad and his brother, direction from the Greatest Showman director, script from the Witcher Blood Origins writer, and creative involvement, I guess you could call it, from Kishimoto himself. He said he was attached to it. That same year, or the next year in 2016, at that year's Jump Festa celebration, Kishimoto unveiled some production art. We haven't seen it yet, so I can't really bring it up, unfortunately. But so, Kishimoto's working on it. They were making moves. That was a near decade ago. Since then, absolute radio silence. We haven't heard anything from, potential release dates to casting to script completions. No word about this movie has existed for the last 10 years. So a lot of us, myself included, kind of thought, well, this is dead. They're done with this. Unfortunately, it turns out that is not the case, as today they announced their first move in over 10 years, and that is both Tasha Ho and Michael Gracie, the director and the writer, are out of Naruto, and both of those positions are now being filled by Daniel Destin Cretton, who, you guys all probably know him as the director of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, because that's pretty much the biggest thing he's done. He's got a couple other indie drama credits to his name, but when it comes to big budget action spectacle, Shang-Chi is his only real thing. So, to that end, we also got a statement from Kishimoto where he said, quote, where he seems to be really on board with Destin's hiring. He says, quote, "When I heard of Destin's attachment, it happened to be right after watching a blockbuster action film of his, and I thought he would be the perfect director for Naruto. After enjoying his other films and understanding that his forte is in creating solid dramas about people, I became convinced that there is no other director for Naruto. In actually meeting Destin, I also found him to be an open-minded director who was willing to embrace my input and felt strongly that we would be able to cooperate together in the production process." End quote. So I pointed this out here in the article, but I'm sure you guys all sort of came to the same conclusion. Kishimoto says right here, "When I heard of Destin's attachment, it happened to be right after watching a blockbuster action film of his." Now, like I said, there's literally only one film in his filmography that fits that, so it's Shang-Chi. This will come as no surprise to absolutely any of you. I have not watched Shang-Chi. And it is the only Marvel thing I have not watched, and I absolutely refuse to watch Shang-Chi because it stars the stupidest human being in the fucking planet, Simu Liu. Now, I'm going to do my best to not let my Simu Liu rage get the best of me, because if you've been on 01 or these streams before, or just talk to me at all, you know that I detest the man. So, for that reason, I'm personally never going to engage with Shang-Chi. That said, from what I've heard from other people, including Andrew here, where he says Shang-Chi has a cool idea for the final fight, and that's about the nicest thing I can say about it. I have heard from people who've watched Shang-Chi that the action fights had potential. Not that they were great per se, but that they had potential, right? Like the bus fight, the neon skyscraper fight, that last fight between Wenwu and Shang-Chi. To that end, Andrew, it's funny you bring that up, because that's actually probably the only coherent scene I've seen from the movie is Shang-Chi's final fight against his dad. And that was just because I was searching for screenshots, and so I had to go through the film. And I was talking about this with Josh, Bounding Into Comics, Josh Berger. If you're out there, what's up, buddy? Hope you're enjoying your vacation. I have a lot for you to do next week. But no, I don't. It's going to be a normal week. But we were talking, and oh gosh, now what was I going to say? Now I'm all caught up with making fun of Josh. But oh right. So we were talking, and I was telling him, like, that final fight actually is kind of visually interesting. What's the right term? It's sort of visually interesting in the beginning when Wenwu is sort of using the rings, and there's a physics to it, right? Sort of like when he moves his arm like that and it shoots off and then it bounces back, and it, like, you know, then he puts his hand out and it sort of like does like that magnet thing, and it like clicks together and goes on his hand. There's a couple moments where he like makes a circle with them, and then like it sort of looks like the energy is interconnecting them and stuff, and that's what's giving it weight. I thought some of those moments looked really cool, particularly that shot where he like uppercuts and it like blasts the rings off and it like knocks Shang-Chi into the air. Like, I thought that was a cool shot. It's the second they give the rings over to Shang himself where it goes full Marvel, because when Shang-Chi gets the 10 rings, it just becomes like here, like we'll pull up a video. Why not? We can do whatever we want. I'm Santa Claus, baby. Shang-Chi final fight. With our big old CG dragon that everybody loved so much. 2 CG dragons that everybody loved so much. Oh, this is not even the right proper final fight. You lied to me, YouTube. I want this. You call this HD? You call this HD? I'm writing home to DC Comics and Marvel's mom and saying, teach your son or daughter how to do better effects. So, like, yeah, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. When Wen uses them, it's a fake weight, obviously. Like they're playing pretend, it's imaginary. But the way he moves and the way he uses them, it gives their own weight. Right there, it feels like a whip. This is all just sort of bog standard. Right there, he sort of like grips it down, and then it like clicks in. Right there, he tosses them up, and you can sort of see, like, let's look at that again. He tosses them up, and they sort of, you can see them going wild, but then he like clicks them back into place as the whip. Yeah. And he's like lashing them out, whirls it. But see, this is where it gets weird. Now it's like, oh, I don't really need a center to this. I can kind of just wield them. Yeah. We don't need to sit here for the entire time. But like, so yeah, like he's kind of, there's not the same weight that Wen Wu's has. And he's also like, none of it really makes sense. He's just able to click it and it goes to what his hands want to do. So the entire sort of mystique about how Wen Wu was using it kind of just gets thrown right out the window for Shang-Chi to be able to magic it. And I think that really kills this entire fight. At least personally. Right? Like even that's like cool as hell. He like shoots it down and it's going to like pop up underneath Shang. But with Shang-Chi, they're just auto there. Like they're always floating. I don't know. It's not great. There's no sense that he's like the center of them. It just feels like they're floating. But to that end, yeah, like good concepts, incredibly bad execution, incredibly muddy execution, incredibly dumb execution. Oh, here's the moment that like always gets me. Right here, where they're just randomly, there's no sort of order to how they're floating until he gets out, and now they're like rings. I don't know. And then he does this stupid pose where they just, that one always made me mad. And then, oh, Kamehameha! Now I'm getting into it. Now I'm getting it. This is what I was talking about. Really, you can't stand Guy or Lee? Those are like my two favorite characters from Naruto, Andrew. That's crazy. That's the same thing. I'm a big theater and musical guy too, Andrew. And Greatest Showman, fine movie. Wasn't probably my favorite. It was technically good, I guess, but it didn't really stand out to me. But yeah, like to go, okay, I want you to direct my live action Naruto movie. I don't know why that was their first idea. That feels like it was a remnant of the post MCU boom where it was just like get anybody with a name and attach them to anything that's a franchise and that's going to get us money and boost their careers, which clearly we're seeing that slowly get moved off the table. I think Daniel Creston's getting handed the Naruto movie, even though I was getting at, I don't really think his work in Shang-Chi is that enough to like be like, whoa, yes, Naruto, oh my god. Like I don't get that from his work, but I think giving it to somebody like a single visionary who has at least an appreciation and familiarity with the, what's the right term here, like the genre of the film that you want to do, I think that's a step in the right direction regardless of how it's going to turn out in the end. Pardon. Dante says, I haven't watched Shang-Chi either. Again, I don't blame you. I can't do it. I cannot stand seeing Simu Liu. The second I see Simu Liu in anything, I get irrationally angry. Like, he's such a pompous douchebag. And I hate that he keeps going out and being like, I'm the greatest gift to Asians ever. Aren't you so happy, Asians, that I'm in Hollywood now? I'm like, you should really respect me for giving you representation. Like, the thing that will always, the main crux of what pisses me off about him is that, but it's his specific comments where he made in the lead up to Shang-Chi, where he essentially said, oh yeah, before me, the highest hopes a guy who looked like me ever had was playing a bad guy who gets beat up. There were no Asian leads. There were no heroes. And I'm like, first of all, that's a damn lie, and you know it. Even if we want to go on the super basic level, you've got Jackie movies, you've got Jet Li movies, you've got Chow Yun-Fat movies. Like, insane, like an insane declaration. But then to also ignore the fact that of all, like, not only does Asia in general have, like, every country has a really burgeoning cinema, like, industry, whether you're like Thailand or China or Japan. It's like those Asian films have always had the best sort of reach over here in America, because they were always, you know, China and Asia or whatever would always make sure that they were produced on the latest technology so we could use it in VHS or DVD, blah, 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 blah. So they've always been over here, and people have loved, like, kung fu movies, Asian dramas, all this shit for years, right? Like, we literally would not be getting a Shang-Chi movie if none of these other, like, actors and stars and writers and creators had paved the way for you. So for you to say you're now, like, Asian Jesus because you starred in a fucking Marvel movie, get the fuck out of my house. And the fact that he's like, oh yeah, this is such a big moment for Asian representation. Finally, we're the heroes on the screen. And this is the problem I have with Simu and then Marvel sort of at large and all those supporters. It's like, you guys just, you don't realize how racist you're being, right? Where it's like, oh, now finally Asians have representation because I'm an Asian playing a kung fu fighting Asian in a big budget movie. It's like that we had to be the kung fu people to be recognized now. Like, what the fuck are you doing? It's so, he's so up his own ass, and everything he says is tinged with just such a giant overinflated ego that I just smarmy. He just drips like I just, bleh. Like, I even feel like venom generating in me out of just, like, thinking about him. Let's see. I didn't know Kara was a huge Witcher fan. I definitely want to ask her do you know if she watched Blood Origins? Because I feel really bad for her if she did. Like, the several clips I saw just from, like, not even actually watching the show for, like, screen caps or anything, just seeing, like, preview reels, like on Netflix when my parents would accidentally leave it on, and it would say, like, Blood Origin coming November 1st or whatever, and it plays, like, the little 10-second trailer. Like, even that, I was like, oof, this is going to be a disaster. I knew it was going to be a disaster when they came out and their first big marketing ploy was, this is the first Witcher project where two men openly kiss on screen. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care about, like, I'm cool. I'm down with the LGBT folks. I got nothing against you. Love who you love, whatever. But it's like, that's what you're basing your entire, like, that's your selling point for this series, is the fact that two guys kiss in one episode. You've got 4 episodes here. What the hell are you doing? And then Andrew says, I have a feeling that whoever they've had working the script had no idea how to translate the story into a live action screenplay. Are you talking about Naruto? I think I agree with you, because again, it's Tasha Ho, and we saw what she did with Witcher, right? Like, I don't, from what I've seen of her body of work, Naruto is too much of a frenetic, what's the right word? Like, frenetic, energetic, bouncy, like, type of action, right? As opposed to the sort of Lord of the Rings or even like standard Witcher series swordplay, where it can be fast, but it's still more like, there's more weight, there's more like calculation to everything they're doing. It's more of a dance or game, if you will. So I don't think she's up for it, which is why I'm like, yeah, Creston's a better choice because he's clearly got some chops handling it. I just don't know if he's the right choice. Because again, if this was, I don't know, let's say it was, I'm going to just pick a random series that's like a little less popular than Naruto, right? Let's say this was like Jujutsu Kaisen, or I'll use a series I like, Ranger Reject. Let's say it was one of those two series, right? And you gave this to Daniel Creston. I would probably be like, okay, let me see what you can do. And I would have or what am I trying to say? If that were the case, if they put Creston on a Jujutsu Kaisen or a Ranger Reject, I would go, okay, I don't know if you have the best track record after Shang-Chi, but this is sort of a lower stakes property that I can sort of be okay with. And I think most people would be okay with you trying somebody out, giving them their second chance on it. Like this, Shang-Chi's first chance for him. This is second chance. I can see it working for those series. But when you're talking like a big 3-er, like Naruto is it's One Piece, it's Dragon Ball. This is a phenomena, not just in Japan, but like here too. Naruto kids are everywhere. Those were that's what we started that when I was like 13 and 12 when that manga came over. We started that. I have my bullying scars from wearing my headband to school, all right? You damn kids. I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's what I'm going for. But yeah, so like it's just the fact that they're giving sort of a director who did, from what I know from hearing everybody talk about Shang-Chi, a fair to pretty good-ish job on Shang-Chi. 7s are sort of the average I'm hearing. Occasionally I hear like an 8. 6s are a little common, but they're not hard. They're not like angry 6s. They're just like meh 6s. So handing something as big and culturally important as Naruto over to someone with that level of pedigree, I just feel a little, from a producer standpoint, putting myself in their shoes, it feels a little too risky and a little too much like we're just sort of flying by our pants. So yeah, I have no idea here. Because you also bring it up here, Andrew. You say Shang-Chi feels like a movie that so badly wants to be a wushu film, but lacks the soul of one. And I think that's perfectly right there. It has all the trappings, but it misses like what makes it a wuxia movie. What gives you that, like, it's those long one shots. It's the one-on-one fights. It's the man up against the odds type of things. Man or woman, whatever. You guys know what I mean. So like that. So that to me is like, yes, I can understand where they went with the choice with Daniel, but I don't think. I think it's like you're 70% of the way there. I just don't know if he can take home that last 30. Yeah, Volume Dealer is saying Wenwu talking about the Mandarin name was lame. Totally dollar store. I mean, here's where I land on the Mandarin stuff. I actually was a really, really, really big fan of the Iron Man 3 twist. I thought, but let me qualify. Just wait before you unsubscribe and you leave. So I liked that twist because I also thought that it was him sort of taking over the Mandarin spot. Like he was literally just like, oh, I'm a grifter. I'm going to step in here and let everybody know I'm the Mandarin. But there's a real Mandarin who's actually going to come after me. I thought that they could have done that really, really well. They just executed it in the worst ways possible. They sort of just dropped that plot point in Iron Man 3 and then sort of picked up on it and then had this whole stupid, where are the 10 rings with Wenwu and all that stuff. When you already had that really cool Mandarin in the first Iron Man where he was playing with the rings. I thought they were going to bring that guy back and he was going to smoke Trevor Slattery and be like, no. How dare you? And then Iron Man 4 or whatever, now you have real Mandarin back. It didn't happen that way, so the end result is objectively worse. But that's to say, I wasn't opposed to it. It's just sort of the way Marvel handles all of their ideas. It ends like this. It ends in just the most infantile, lazy ways that you can possibly think of. Andrew says because he wasn't half as interesting or portrayed as a character in the film. Are you talking about Shang? Again, I have no idea. I can't stand him. This is why we stopped on Wenwu for me to look at. Yeah, the movie had zero gravitas. That's sort of what I took away from it. From what I've heard from other people, is that it's not even like a hero hits his low point story. It's more just like a hero sort of wakes up from his nap and stumbles into being a superhero. Which is okay. And then I know that they tried to give it that gravitas at the end by the post-credit scene is Shang-Chi and that's right, it's got fucking Awkwafina in it too. God, I hate Awkwafina as well. She's so annoying. But their post-credit scene are those two debriefing or being debriefed on the 10 Rings fight situation by Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner. Because they're the Avengers and they're we're going to need to investigate this. And it's supposed to give you this oh, look at that. But it's just do we care? Does it matter? He's done. When Wu's defeated, he has the rings now. What? You're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. Tahillam says, I'd rather take the Naruto stage play over live action from some rando. Japan, please. I don't know who I need to direct this prayer or this request to, but somebody please just start recording stage shows and include them either release extra DVDs or include them as bonuses. Cause like we get them a lot for anime and stuff and like manga, and we also get them for video games. But here's where I'm coming from. As a tokusatsu fan, we get obviously the genre allows itself to stage plays really easily, but you can't watch them unless you're there. And there's like canon information in all of this stuff, and it's just like, I want to know this part of Ultraman Blazar's story, but I can't watch the stage play, so I hope somebody on the wiki is going to be able to help me out. Dante says Kakashi is going to be a black chick, calling it now. I don't know. Like, here's the thing. And it sort of wraps into another point with the story is, while Kishimoto is attached and he's excited, that doesn't necessarily... I like Kishimoto. I liked his work. I don't know how he feels about keeping his work super stringent. I would imagine that he's like most other mangaka and doesn't want his stuff being messed with without his direct permission. I just don't know if he's going to be as vigilant as Oda was with One Piece, as with with the Naruto movie. So part of me wants to go I hope, I don't know. I think he'll want to keep Kakashi like an Asian guy, but then the other part of me is I don't know Kishimoto's track record. I don't know how he's going to feel working under the pressures of Hollywood and all that stuff. So I can't really weigh in. All I can really say is you're not wrong, but you're not right. Your bet is a valid bet. We are accepting these bets at the window. Yes, exactly, Andrew. Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Bruce Lee, all of these people. He's like, nope, never happened. And again, I'm sitting here as not only a huge fan of Asian cinema, who that was what I did in my childhood. I would wait for my friends to get weird random bootlegs from their cousins and brothers over in Vietnam or in China or in the Philippines, and we'd watch whatever the hell was on there. But so coming from that background, and then also being a fan of Power Rangers and Tokusatsu, it's just Power Rangers alone was a phenomena. And we know, while American audiences don't necessarily, the general ones might not necessarily know who the suit actors were or what the original CUH Ranger team names were. They might not know that, but they know it comes from Japan. They know that they enjoyed it. They know Japanese people can be heroes. This is not a revelation. And to sit here and go, finally in 2020, I did it for you guys. Oh, me. I would like to sneeze in his food. Let's put it that way. Oh, man. Yeah. Eccentric Banana says, so he acts like the dude that played Cyborg. Ray Fisher is his name. It's funny you bring him up because where is he lately? This is just a general question. I know he did some stuff for Snyder Cut, but I don't think I've seen him in anything else since then. Yes, the Lone Wolf and Cub series is fantastic, Dante. Always, all those films are good. The manga is good. It's all fantastic. Ooh, Kara painfully, she did subject herself to blood origins. Oh man, I'm gonna I need to get her address from her husband and be can I send her a fruit basket and be Kara, I'm sorry for your loss of your time. That, I feel so bad for her. Yeah, Bruce Lee was the comic book character of Kato in the Green Hornet. Simu hasn't done anything. Simu is just there. I like Shang-Chi as a character from the comics, but even I have to admit that he's not an A-lister. Even to this day, he's a C-lister at best. And again, I like him a lot. And he's just... Simu needs to get over himself. Yeah, see... Yeah, Andrew's with me. Naruto's on the same level. Precious few other anime have reached. DBZ and One Piece specifically. Right. So, I needed to be given the proper reverence and not sort of a... And again, I don't know a lot of Daniel's talent, and he could genuinely come out and impress us. But right now, if you had to ask me, if I was going to make a bet, I would say, this is just a lukewarm pick because, it's sort of the same problems I have when things cast Pedro Pascal for everything, or when video games cast Nolan North and Laura Bailey for everything. Nothing necessarily wrong with them, but it's like you clearly just opened up Google and typed in video game voice actor female or lead male television. Oh, I guess we could cast Pedro. It's sort of like the same thing here, right? Like Asian movie director, like Hollywood. Oh, Daniel Creston, he did an Asian kung fu movie for America. Let's give it to him. Let's see. Yeah, Timon says Boruto was the wrong way to continue the story. It should have ended with Naruto as Hokage, and Andrew has my thoughts on it as well. I agree, or if they were going to continue it, don't make Naruto's kids the focus this time. Sarada would be a more interesting protagonist. Yes, I absolutely agree that Sarada would have been the better protagonist. But I will give Boruto one credit, if I can find what I want to talk about. Nope, oh, that's why, because I'm typing in the wrong thing. Yeah! Boruto has introduced this. Oh my god, why is that picture so small? Good god. You guys wouldn't know who I was talking about if I kept it there. This chick. I like her. I like her design. She looks like the sort of bad bitch that would have easily ruined my life in college. So I'm about it. I also just like the hair coloring. I think it's pretty cool. But I give Boruto one thing. One thing. Yeah, no. Let's see. Stage play. Shinkai says stage plays like Katekyo, Hitman Reborn. I've never been able to say that first word properly. Like, and I've read the series. I read the series entire run. I've never been able to say that name right. But yeah, like everything you can think of gets a stage play. Persona 3, it gets a stage play. Persona 4, 5, 6, Shin Megami Tensei, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Kamen Rider. Like, just literally all of this stuff gets these really cool stage plays that are, they're pretty faithful and you can tell they're like labor, even if they don't look the best, like they don't look 100% like a Hollywood production, you can tell they're like labors of love at least. Like the people playing in them like the character, they like the material. They're not sitting there going, oh man, I can't wait until I get the job to write, I don't know, Japanese Iron Claw, something like that. Like they're not doing that. Like they actually want to engage with their work. Right, yeah, Timon. My heroes were all Asians when I was a kid, plus Indiana Jones, Jiraiya, Juicebion, Giban, Spielman, Kamen Rider Black. That is a very, very, like, if I didn't already know you, Timon, and you'd have said these were my childhood heroes, I would have been like, oh, you are Brazilian, aren't you? Like, you are dead Brazilian. Like that, only like somebody who was raised either in Japan or Brazil who had regular access to all the Metal Hero shows would have named them all like that. Because like in America, we got B-Fighter Kabuto. That's all we got from Metal Heroes, which was which ended up becoming Beetleborgs, right? Like it was pretty bad. So yeah, I know where you are, Timon. Don't you dare say that. Andrew says they're gonna cast Pedro as Jiraiya. The worst part about that sentence is that I can see them doing it, and I can see sort of like the concept art of it, and it just is like, oh, it's gonna be so bad. Like, don't. They'll either cast him as Jiraiya or that's your Kakashi, right? Like, there's your Kakashi. It's Pedro Pascal. Your Sasuke is gonna be Ian Osley, the guy from the live action Avatar series, the one that just came out on Netflix. That's who's gonna be Sasuke. Also, guys, I have not watched that series yet. Obviously, if it came out like yesterday, there's just not enough time for me to have watched that and worked and done everything and have the stream. So we will be having one of those good old fashioned deep dive review not watch throughs, but you guys remember how we sort of went through Castlevania Nocturne and And One Piece. We'll be doing another one of those dives next week after I watch the show. But yes, in case you're wondering, that's the only reason I'm not commenting on it yet, because I just have not engaged with it. Andrew says, I'm Uchiha through and through. Anyways, Itachi and Sasuke are my two faves, followed by Gaara, and Madara is cool as shit. Cannot disagree with that. Valid choice. I will say this, while Lee is my favorite, like Rock Lee is my favorite, my second favorite is Gaara. I love the way he uses his powers. I love the way that he always sort of stays menacing, even though he becomes a hero, without doing the whole like Vegeta over the top acting of no, I'm not a bad guy. So yeah, can't argue with you there. Right there with you. Oh, that's awesome. Shinkai says, Hitman Reborn rocks so much he made an AMV with the opening to Smallville, another show I love. Dude, somebody save me. Dude, that thing is always going to be in my head. I can see like the explosions in the intro too. I loved Smallville when I was younger. Like that show was like 2001, 2002, 2003. I was one of those kids who was like, oh mom, it's Tuesday, can you put on the TV so I can watch Smallville? We gotta get home from Smallville. Like, I was so excited about that show when I was growing up. And I mean, I still am. It's just, it goes to past tense because the show is over now. I've loved the days of AMVs. I never got to make one myself, and I really wish I would have. There's a really good one that will always be my favorite. It's once I say it, you guys probably all have seen it. You probably know it, but you could never, just like me, you could probably not identify who made it or like what his screen name was. But there's a really, really good Vegeta one to Adam's Song by Blink-182. And I really like that one. It's really, really good. Maybe I'll be able to find it on Twitter later, or I'll find it on YouTube and I'll throw it on Twitter later, because man, now you've got me going like through the AMV like rabbit hole. There's a really good Rurouni Kenshin one that uses a Garbage song, like the band Garbage, When I Grow Up. Now you have officially, Shinkai, you have ruined my weekend, because now I'm just going to be sending or like looking at a bunch of AMVs. You've also ruined Andrew and Zero's weekends, because I'm probably going to be sending them to them. This is on you. You hold that weight, buddy. Shinkai, damn you! Okay. Shinkai says, LOL, Tom Holland as Naruto. And the reason I am laughing and reacting like this is because at the start of the stream, or not the stream, but after I published the article and I was starting to post it on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, I started going man, that's probably who they will pick, isn't it? That's going to be their lazy Nolan North level casting, is young male lead. Oh, Tom Holland, want it? And I don't really have faith that they would err away from that with Naruto, with pretty much anything these days, right? Unless it's something that I know that I can sort of trust. All of my favorite franchises, all of my favorite networks, all of my favorite studios, they've all shat the bed really hard lately in the last decade. So to me, it's no longer oh yeah, I'm willing to give you a shot because you are DC, or you are a Flash comic, or you are a Ben Reilly comic. It's now you comic book, you writer, whatever, you need to prove to me, give me one damn good reason why I should actually check out your book. And if you can't sell your book to me on anything, if you just give me a bunch of oh, well, you see, it's a big exploration of Wally's life and family. No, don't want that. Just unacceptable. Unacceptable. But yeah, so I'm laughing because that's the one thing I didn't want to talk about, because I don't want to what's the word? Materialize that in the world. But now you've done it, Shinkai. It's I think it's either going to be a Tom Holland. They go super lazy. It's a Tom Holland, or they get a new actor, just some kid that is getting his chops, because they've been doing that a little more lately, or left field pick that Gordon Cormier kid from the Netflix Avatar series. Because while that show apparently is ass, he apparently is at least a competent actor in it. So, and he he's got like the young Asian kid look. He could totally slip right in there, I think. So we will see. I mean, I haven't even started to think about casting for this movie or where the story might go, because not only do we know nothing about it, aside from the fact that it exists, but again, guys, 10 years. It's been 10 years since we got the last update on this movie. And the only update in that time since was, oh, we have a new director and writer who is the same person. So, with casting, it could probably go any way. I'm not going to say, I'm not putting a bet on it either way. The story, I'm a little bit more interested in finding out how they handle, because it really depends on, are they going to try and make this a multi-film series right out of the gate? Or are they going to try and do like here's a one movie tease, maybe we'll start getting a franchise out of it, right? Because that is going to dictate how they handle whatever part of the manga they adapt, because they'll either have to force in a cliffhanger of sorts, or they're going to have to be ready to go all that way. There's just so much it could do, and I'm just worried they'll try to do too much, because we know, like, this happens a lot in manga and anime, right? Where, particularly shonen, where the first couple volumes, chapters, 2 volumes, are slightly different in tone and exposition than what comes later, right? Like, a character might go on, he might do something, he might go on a quest in the early chapters that he would never go on later on, because it just doesn't play in. And to me, one of the best examples of this, and I know that was kind of confusing, but hopefully this clears the air. But to me, one of the best examples of this is actually Naruto, right? Because Naruto starts off with, okay, you're all kids, we're training here, Team 7, the fight with Zabasu, all that stuff is very sort of disconnected, I think is the best term, from what we get later on. Because later on, once we finally start getting into the Uchiha clan and, Naruto's past, and then like the war between them and all that stuff, it becomes that's where you sort of get your actual like story. But the beginning is sort of, it establishes who the characters are. There's a lot of even if it doesn't really play into what happens later on, that's sort of, it's still important to them as a character. We can look at Dragon Ball too, right? Like, rarely does Goku go on quests anymore that are adventures to blow up bases like the Red Ribbon Army. Nowadays, it's just one-on-one fights against a specific opponent. Completely different, but I still wouldn't ignore or want to excise all that development and adventure I went through with Goku in the early stages. So what makes me worried is that that Lionsgate and Creston will be in a rush to get to essentially the meat of Naruto, which is all that Uchiha, Sasuke, Naruto stuff, and do that at the expense of pacing by smashing just everything together, right? Just like Zabasu shows up 20 minutes into the movie, and that's where that arc starts and ends. Or I forget who they fight next. I know it's like the shark guy. But like, I don't want them throwing in all these fights and just smashing them together. I want to be able to breathe and get to know these characters. And that's going to be probably one of, if not the biggest challenge that this project faces, in addition to just making it make sense visually. Because like, I was doing this with Andrew earlier just to have some fun. But I need to get the one specific picture, because this joke doesn't work unless I have that one specific one that I sent him. Okay, perfect. I found it. So, obviously, like I said, it's going to be a big challenge. Here, I'm just going to pull this tab over here. Adapting Naruto to live action. Just aside from, their movements, their effects, just the characters themselves, you have to translate that to live action. Now, we know cosplayers have had a really good job. Like this girl right here, I think she did a really good job as Naruto. She looks great. Here's another like female as Japan. a slightly worse one, but still like a good cosplay. Better if you're going for more accurate like hair spikes. Like, we see that it can be done okayish. None of these really stand out as fantastic adaptations. I think my vote would go to her for best real life take on what Naruto would look like. My problem is I'm like 90% sure, just given how America rolls, we're going to get something like that. Like this is from Amazon. It's for like a costume from like Party City, but that sort of sells my point, right? Like, it's Naruto and you have the elements of Naruto there, but you don't have Naruto. They don't have him there. Or I also fear that they go sort of the other way where they try to be too authentic and you get like hair like this, where yeah, it's like individually spiked according to Naruto's art, but it's also, it doesn't work because you didn't translate it. You just literally went 1-to-1 from the page to real life. So so many things could happen with this movie. I am personally not optimistic about it just because, guys, like, we've seen so many live action adaptations just fall apart and crap the bed. One Piece seems to be an exception so far, right? Like, there's One Piece. I liked Yu Yu Hakusho for what it was. You can go watch my episode on that. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it. I thought they did a commendable job on it, if you will. But yeah, so this is really just going to be one of those cases of we'll see what it is, but don't get your hopes up, folks, because whatever hope you raise in yourself will absolutely get dashed. I will make that bet. All right. Timon says, first of all, you know it. Of course I know it. I know you're my BR boy. But Timon also says, if you ever want to do a classic tokusatsu roundtable, I'll really want to talk about the 80s toku tracks. I still listen to it while working. So one, I would love to do a roundtable. Like, if we get more people who want to talk toku, I'd love to have like a regular talk show. Two, yes, those 80s soundtracks, just all the instrumentation in 80s soundtracks. It's been like a thing for me lately. So let me scale that back. Some of you might know this, some of you might not. But I, aside from being a writer, an artist, a comic book nerd, anime weeb, whatever, all that stuff, I'm also a musician. Like, I'm a big music dork, and I play instruments. I'm one of those people who will sit there, and I know I annoyed like all my exes or girls I date when I'm just like, oh, do you hear this part? Oh yeah. Like, did you hear that tiny guitar screech in the back? That was a way for the like eighth note to echo. Like, I get into that sort of like nerd level stuff. But in recent months, I don't know why, I've started having a newfound appreciation for like 80s instrumentation. So just the different synths, the different tones, the different guitar effects they've thrown on. So I've been listening to them too, and I'm just like, man, I can feel the hype when some of these tracks come on. So yeah, that would, if you're interested, maybe we can get something going. Let's talk. But quick aside, I am also working on a regular series with a buddy where we are watching through all of the Kamen Rider series, well, we're starting with all of Kamen Rider, then we'll probably go on to like Sentai, Metal Heroes, whatever. It's going to be like a review style podcast type thing. Still working on it, still editing it, but quick little tease for you guys, that'll come someday. So if you've ever been wanting to get into Kamen Rider and Toku, you can join along, watch along. It is not just going to be an audio podcast. Like I said, it's going to be like review where I'm going to put in clips and visuals. So it'll be a whole package for everybody to check out. So check that one out whenever it comes through. And then, yeah, Andrew says, love Smallville. I still do, even though in retrospect, it has a lot of issues. I mean, yes, it does. It absolutely does. I don't think anybody could ignore that. After all, it was oh my gosh, what was it before? The WB. It was on the WB. So, of course, it was going to be like, you've got your melodrama problems. There's some pacing problems. There are some characterization problems. But I still think, like, looking at it for what it was as a whole, not only was it a solid television show on its own, yeah, it leaned into the melodrama a little bit, but that's what you're going to get on the WB, now CW. But it also, like, it was incredible, the level of respect and accuracy to the lore we were still able to get back then, right? Like, I remember losing my mind when the episode. So obviously you guys know this. The Flash is my favorite. Wally West Flash is my favorite DC comic superhero. When they announced that Impulse was going, and then Impulse is my second, right? So then they announced Impulse was going to be on Smallville. He was going to make a cameo. He was going to be a speedster that races with Clark. And I was like, ooh, that's different. Because, obviously I would have imagined Barry, but that's a very, okay, I'm up to see Bart. And there's a moment in that episode where Clark catches Bart, because Bart is using his, powers to, shoplift and stuff. So Clark, chases him down, hey, don't you do that. And when he catches up to him, he's like, Bart's like, you can't, take me in. What are you going to do? You don't even know who I am. And Clark, he does that little thing where he's like, da-da-da-da, got your wallet. And Bart's like, what? And so then Clark starts going through his wallet, and he's like, it doesn't matter whether you're Barry Allen, Wally West, Bart Allen, one of these names is going to, let me, if I take these to the cops, one of these names is going to come back to you. I know it will. And I remember being like, wow, I can't believe we even got that level of reverence on TV. We wouldn't get that nowadays. Nowadays, we would get some sort of stupid joke, right? Like Clark would go, Wally West, Barry Allen. Those are some really terrible fake names. Nobody would ever believe you if you use those. And it's like, that's not what we want. We don't want tongue in cheek. We want to know that, our characters are being rather respected. I mean, yeah, the Justice League was kind of bad, at least in their costuming, particularly the famous Jet Jackson as Cyborg, which was just a gray hoodie without sleeves. Let's pull it up for those who don't know. What? That can't be the biggest photo I get of him. Wow, that's a bad. All of these photos are bad. I mean, the show is 400 years old, but still. There we go. This one. What are you doing? Yeah, this sucks, but you guys can kind of see it. You've got Bart on the left. You've got Green Arrow. You've got Clark. You've got Aquaman. You've got Cyborg. Cyborg's costume is really just really, 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 really bad. But yeah, on a whole, I think Smallville was good for what it was. It was incredible that we were able to get such a relatively respectful DC adaptation in the early 2000s when everything was sort of burgeoning. And yeah, obviously problems, but I think I can look past most of them. Here's a problem I can't look past. Let me bring it up because it just always gets to me. Oh man, it's so bad. There she is. So obviously, as you can sort of tell from the fact that there's a Justice League here, a little as Smallville started going on, we started getting more cameos from other characters. Eventually, we got to the point where we met the Justice Society, and this is their version of Stargirl, which not entirely awful, but literally, what the hell is that mask? I've never seen a domino mask only go up to cover your forehead. It's in the comics, Courtney's mask is here. Right. So yeah, in the comics, Stargirl's costume is the tights where she has a hood that comes up. So I can see that's what they're going for, but they didn't connect it anywhere. It looks off. If you guys remember of the 10 seconds it appears in the movie, it's sort of the same thing they did with Sydney Sweeney's Julia Carpenter outfit, right? Where it's got the super thin. Here, we'll just do Julia Carpenter, Madame Web. Yeah. Right? It's got that weird sort of face outcut. I don't know what they're trying to do here. It doesn't work. Either just give them the hood or give them a domino mask. Make it, again, it's translation. You don't need to always be 1-1, but you need to make it work in your medium. And this Stargirl, not that one. Not that one either. Where did she go? Oh, it's this window that I was in. And yeah, this Stargirl just is not it. And the woman who plays her is pretty attractive. She's kind of, or not kind of, she's She's pretty, right? Like, but then that mask is such a disservice. It just it just hides her entire face. It makes her look bulgy. Look at this action shot. It's bad. It's just I don't know what they were doing there. So yes, Smallville has some missteps, but it also has some great stuff. If you guys haven't watched it and you can stomach, early 2000s production values and writing, very melodramatic stuff, I would honestly recommend it as like a new show that you throw on maybe at the end of the night or whatever, because it is enjoyable. It has its moments. Michael Rosenbaum is one of the best actors ever to portray Lex Luthor. And yeah, highly recommend. Chloe Sullivan is my waifu. Allison Mack still is, even after everything. I can fix her. Okay? She doesn't need to stay under house arrest with her parents. We can move in together. All right? I can help you reshape your image after you left your sex cult. Call me Chloe, or call me Allison. I'm still here. So, Zero says there will be gay romance between Naruto and Sasuke. I don't know about that, but I like your comment where you're like, we need that porn movie. I gotta believe it already exists, right? Somebody in Japan has to have made that. That would be like us not having a Batman Superman gay movie, right? Like gay adult film. It just, there's no way. Like you think about it and it's just like, there's no way. It's on the face. It's one of those things where you go, if you were going to make an adult film about a pop culture like duo, who would you do? It's like right there, pop off the top of your head, Batman, Superman. It's like Naruto, Sasuke. So now I think, we have a mission to investigate Zero. Bongo's baseline, says Timon, all you need is ask and I'll be there. Awesome. I'm excited for that. Let's talk. Let's set something up because I would really like to do that. But then, yeah, the mask sucks. It's completely pointless. And Smallville got boring when everything was because Kryptonite. That is sort of like, yeah. And that happens in like seasons like 7, 8, 9-ish around there. So like here's the general progression of Smallville. And I don't necessarily think it has anything to do with its quality, but you can sort of see where their creative juices, I wouldn't say started running out, but where they started sort of reaching for things to do, right? Like, started out very specific, Clark trying to hide his identity and Lex trying to figure it out. Then you moved on to, okay, Clark's embraced his powers and he's sort of slowly starting to try to be a hero, but he's not always getting it right. And then you had, oh, Clark's a full-blown hero now, and everybody has kryptonite, so now everybody is using kryptonite, everybody has a kryptonite weapon, everybody's using, like, red kryptonite on Clark, and then after that, you had the period of DC cameos, which were, the Justice Society, Booster Gold, Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle. I don't know if you guys realize that that's how long that show was going on. That show went on so long that it was around to introduce Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle, who first made his debut in like 2009 in Infinite Crisis. Like, that's such a long run for a show. And that it wasn't even done by that point. It still had like 2 seasons to go. So, yeah, so like I agree that it got a little boring with the kryptonite stuff. I think you could tell where they started reaching when it was like kryptonite and superheroes everywhere. I don't think that necessarily meant it got bad. It just got a little less gripping, I think is maybe the right word. Like, I still watched, but it wasn't the same level of like, oh shit, what's going to happen to Clark now? Oh shit. Like, it wasn't that same level. It was like oh, okay, yeah, like, oh, what's he going to do this time? Okay, like, he's got to win. Like, what's going to happen? Sort of more standard than it was drama. I'm sure I'm not even communicating that right, but I think you guys know what I mean. And then Shinkai says, Tom Welling can save me, LOL, just like his Clark and Superman. I love Tom Welling as Clark and Superman. He's always going to have like a special soft spot. He looks like he's a handsome man. He looked like a good Clark. I don't know, Shinkai, if you happen to catch the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover from the Arrowverse that they did a couple years ago. You know, Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman. But he appears in that crossover as as an alternate universe Clark. Like they go back to the Smallville universe and you meet him again, and he's like depowered because he gave up sort of, or not like depowered, but like not Superman because he sort of gave it up for a regular life with Lois. And while you might think that sounds like a cop out, if you watch it, like the way Welling handles his performance and his role as like this older, more fatherly, responsible Superman, like it's just, ooh, it was so good. It was definitely one of the highlights of that crossover. Meteor Advocate Timon says the Kents were the best casting in TV in decades. I agree. What's his name? Oh my gosh. Jonathan. I can see him. I know it. Somebody's going to say it and I'm going to be like, oh, duh. But he's the guy from, Dukes of Hazzard. Damn, it's bugging me. But yeah, he was great as Pa. And John Schneider. Thank you, Shinkai. Schneider. I knew it was right there. It was right there, guys. I told you that it was right freaking there. Schneider was amazing as Pa. Annette O'Toole was a really good Lois, or Ma. I thought she also did a really good job when she started like running for mayor of Smallville in like season 5 or something. That was a really good arc by Annette O'Toole. Here's something funny about her casting this is probably just like a personal thing, but so I watched Smallville in my childhood and everything, right? I didn't watch the first It movie, like the Canadian made-for-TV movie with Tim Curry, until, I don't know, like I was like a teenager or like in college. Not because I was like scared or I didn't want to watch it. It was just like, it never came up. My friends weren't really horror friends, yada, yada, yada. But when I watched that movie, in case anybody hasn't seen that It movie, Bev is Annette O'Toole. But she's like a young Annette O'Toole. And it threw me off so hard. Because I was like, that's Smallville lady. I know that's Smallville lady. But then the entire time in It, like she's speaking heavily Canadian accent. And I'm just like, but she doesn't have that in Smallville. So like my first viewing of It was one of those ones where I was just like, that's you, isn't it? I know that's you. I know that's you, Ma Kent. I know that's you. Shinkai says the only good part of Crisis on Infinite was Smallville. Punching Lex made it. LOL, same old Lex. So I'm curious about this because I didn't realize that crossover was so widely panned as much as it is. For example, like you don't like it, Shinkai. Andrew doesn't like it. We had to talk about it a couple weeks ago. I have like 2 or 3 friends who weren't the biggest fans of it, but I'm like a pretty big fan of it. Like I'm a very decent fan of it. There are a lot of parts in it that I thought were extremely, extremely stupid. Gosh, where do we start? The Shadow Demon fight in the very first episode when they're fighting like the Monitor's shadow demons. That fight looks really, really bad. Everything with like the future Ollie kids, I don't like any of them. It's just I didn't like that plot at all. I know they revisited it a few times after that in Arrow, and I'm just like, no. And they wanted to do a spin-off about them, and I'm just like, I can't. Like, that's too much like teen drama, right? That was bad. The way the Anti-Monitor looked was awful. His whole like he looks like this is the comparison I always say. So Anti-Monitor, Crisis, the CW, right? Like like okay, there's our Anti-Monitor, right? Completely stupid, especially because like real Anti-Monitor is. I think this Anti-Monitor is one of the coolest, like scariest designs DC sort of ever really put to page, and they threw that away for this guy. And you know who this guy looks like and why I cannot take it seriously? Long time watchers of 01 might know exactly where I'm going with this comparison, because I have made it before, but you're not going to be able to unsee this. That's your Anti-Monitor. He's basically Zordon from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie when he fell out of the case and his body was like dying. That's all I see. I cannot see anything else. It's just like higher definition, right? Because you get more lines. But this design was so bad. This concept art is a lot better. I don't know why They didn't just go with something like that. Like, they got the monitor pretty, right? Right? But then anti-monitor is just awful. Okay, yeah, so Shinkai says, I thought it was all right. The dumb parts do slightly pull on it, but it had its good moments. Yes, maybe all right is probably the better word I want to use. No idea. I just know, like, I like watching it. I thought it did a pretty good job in honoring sort of all the characters that were in the crossover. I know that the treatment of Kevin Conroy's Batman was a little over the top, but I also chalk that up to it's not the Batman the Animated Series Batman. It's also just a version of Batman that could go bad. Okay, I'll let it slide. It happens before, right? It's not Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, but it wasn't my favorite, but it was something I could sort of let go. And then, like, you got, like, Brandon Routh got his redemption as Superman from Superman Returns. I thought that was cool. Welling came back. Yeah. I admit, even though I hate him personally, and every time he's shown up as the character, the little moment at the very end of the Crisis where Barry runs into Ezra Miller Flash, and they're just like, whoa, crazy. Like, I thought that was a cute little fun moment that didn't need to go anywhere else. I thought, cool, neat. I think I have to go rewatch it because now I'm, like, forgetting half the stuff I saw in it. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I'm more just surprised that it's not more widely okay. Like, it gets more of a reaction off the jump of, ooh, I didn't like it, than, like, it was all right, but I didn't care for it. You know what I mean? So that just took me by surprise. Not that anybody's wrong. I just thought that I wasn't so alone, in my opinion. Yeah, Anti-Monitor as the bad dark side from Smallville. That's a really good way to put it. I really like that way of viewing it. But yeah, so that's sort of, I don't even know how we got to Smallville, but that's what we have with Smallville. That's sort of that story. I think, we're getting near the 3-hour mark. We still haven't hit our main topic for the night, so I think now is probably as good a time as any to hit our main topic. We can wrap up with that, and let's see where it takes us from there, shall we? So, first off, before I start covering this story, I want to give a very, very, very special shout out to Zero Dozer, because if it were not for him, I would have not been alerted to the fact that this entire story was breaking, that Reuben Langdon was going to come out and talk. So, shout out to you, Zero. You saved my bacon, or not saved my bacon, but you really threw me a big bone there. You're the man. Lunch is on me if you ever make it out of that Brazilian hellhole and find yourself in the glorious land of freedom. But anyway, so as you can sort of see from the theming of tonight's stream, the headline I have pulled up now, our main subject of the week is Reuben Langdon. Now, for those unfamiliar with Reuben Langdon, as a person, you might be very familiar with his work. Specifically, you might know him as the guy who's provided the voice work and motion capture work for Dante from the Devil May Cry series pretty much since its inception. Not entirely sure if he worked on 1 or 2, because we can just look that up. DMC2. Let's see. Okay, that's what I thought. He started as the voice actor and mocap actor for Dante in 3, and pretty much has portrayed him in every appearance since. The only one he didn't was, there's 2. There's DMC Devil May Cry, the Dante, as I like to refer to him, the Dante version of Dante. He did not provide his voice because that was a completely different studio with a completely different take on the character. And he did not provide the voice of Dante in the previous ADV Films produced animated series from Studio Pierrot. That is not because of any legal troubles or anything. That was simply because of pricing. The anime studio just didn't have the price to be able to afford his fees and all that stuff. Business can sometimes shut you over like that. But yeah, so you guys, whether you've played Devil May Cry 3, 4, 5, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom, the Shin Megami Tensei 3 remake, where Dante is a special guest party member, wherever you've seen Dante in the last, but pretty much through his entire voiced existence, it's been Reuben Langdon. Now, Reuben Langdon also got a side gig at Capcom in Street Fighter 4, when he was chosen to be the new, I'd say official, because that's sort of technically the first 3D produced entry in the series, right? With like proper voice acting that wasn't just like MIDI files and such. So let me double check my information here, because I want to say that I typed in Ken Masters into Google and it said that he's a film character, and I would just very much like to talk to somebody over there, because that is incorrect. So yeah. So, in 2014, Reuben Langdon was officially tagged as the first proper voice actor for Ken Masters in the Devil May Cry series, or in the Street Fighter series. Hence why we've got Dante Ken down here. Thought it worked out really well. Yeah. Prior to Street Fighter 4, Ken had obviously appeared in various voiced roles, whether it was the Street Fighter 2 animated series, whether it was the television, like that Saturday morning cartoon series, whether it was the motion comics they did for a little bit. Different voices were providing Ken, but once Reuben was tapped for it with Street Fighter 4, he sort of became the permanent voice actor for Ken from there on out. He voiced him in what was it? Street Fighter 5, in what is that? Tekken Cross Street Fighter? I always forget which one, because there's Street Fighter Cross Tekken. So just an aside on this one, because I need to vent, because I always need to vent when this subject comes up. So that game, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, obviously for you guys, if you know it, what am I trying to say here? So that game, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, crossover fighting game between Street Fighter and the Tekken franchise based on Street Fighter's mechanics. Now, that game was supposed to have a second companion title, Tekken Cross Street Fighter, which was going to put the Street Fighter characters into the Tekken engine, right? I was pumped for that, because I've never really gotten into Tekken. I like the characters and stuff, but the system there was just never anything, like, I like the characters, but there was nobody ever to really keep me motivated to want to keep learning how to use them better. I thought Street Fighter characters, that'll give me an in, and I'll get to like learn Tekken finally. Canceled. Just they've never talked about it again. They've never even officially canceled it. And it just makes me mad, because I think that would have been so cool to play, so fun, so different than what we normally get. But yeah, Langdon played him in Street Fighter 4, 5, Street Fighter Cross Tekken. He even portrayed him in his two cameo appearances one in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as the assist trophy, and then in Wreck-It Ralph as a patron of the Taproot bar at the very end of the movie, right? So Langdon's obviously been there. He's been around for a long time, until last year, when it was discovered in the lead up to Street Fighter VI that Langdon was no longer the voice of Ken. He had been replaced by David how do you say his name? David Matranga? Can't remember. He's had a couple roles, but he's definitely not as prominent as Langdon. But that's the new voice of Ken in Street Fighter 6. Presumably going forward, there hasn't been any new Street Fighter stuff since 6, but presumably he'll stay on in the role. So fans went, that's really weird. Why did that happen? We have no idea. Then a couple months after that, we got word that a Devil May Cry mobile game was coming out. It's called Peak of Combat. It's still available on iOS, Android, if you want to check it out. It's not great. It is really, really jank. But fans noticed that in the game, Dante was not voiced by Reuben Langdon. He was voiced by, I believe his name is PJ McNeil. I want to say his name is something like that. It's PJ something. Very, very small-time voice actor. He mostly does background character work for mobile games or independent animations. But everybody went, that's really strange. Did they fire Reuben Langdon? Now, the reason everybody started to assume that Reuben Langdon had been fired was, if you don't know who Reuben Langdon is as a person, Reuben Langdon is very much a anti-establishment, wooey, weird, esoteric sort of guy, right? He honestly, like, if you put me and him together, we could probably talk forever about the things we share in common, right? He's very much, anti-government authoritarianism, anti-censorship, one of the big things he came out against during the pandemic was forced COVID vaccination mandates, right? Like ordering people to get the vaccine if you want them to participate in society, essentially. He's a very, very, very big believer in the phenomena of UFOs, as am I, right? Like he's very interested in that topic. So he's or not even in recent years, but throughout his career, Langdon's been very vocal about his beliefs. He doesn't go out, going, hey, he doesn't pick fights with people on social media. He doesn't try to inject himself into conversations where he's not wanted or has a platform. He's just very much like, hey, here's what I believe. I'm going to be joining this alien podcaster tonight. Come watch if you're interested. Oh, I'm going to be on this anti-censorship podcast tonight. Come join me if you're interested in seeing that, right? So he by some people's definitions, you could probably call him out there, a little quirky, but at no time has Langdon ever done anything like, we need to overthrow Biden. We need to, assassinate somebody. We need to, assault people on the streets who disagree with us. He's never been anything like that. Now, a couple years ago, let's see, what year was it? The year was 2021. So in 2021, Newsweek came out with an article basically it's basically a hit piece. That's the genuinely best term you can use for it. It's the best. It applies in every definition of the word. Newsweek published a hit piece against Langdon. So on one hand, they jumped on his, anti-establishment, pro-UFO disclosure, anti-censorship beliefs, and they went, hey, look at him. He's a right-wing nut job. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's an extremist. We can't be employing these people who are so loyal to Trump, especially when Trump is saying, oh, I didn't lose the election and he caused an insurrection, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm paraphrasing them. That's not my opinion. That's just like the arguments they're using. So that was one half of their article, just going like, oh, look, he believes in UFOs. What a freaking loony bat. You don't want to work with him. Or, he's anti-mandates. He clearly wants us all to die and he doesn't believe in science. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. The typical lines of attacks you've seen leveled against, anybody from Gina Carano to people in our spaces. Like, I know I've been hit with those accusations. I've seen Eric July hit with those accusations. I've seen Comics Division, Culture Casino, WDW Pro, Jonas Campbell. Pretty much anybody in our sphere has been hit with, oh, you don't fully believe in this left-wing thing. You must be a right-wing, neo-Yahtzee extremist. So that was half of their hit piece against Langdon. The other half came, and this is probably what was the catalyst. Nobody's come out right now and said that this is what it was, but I'm pretty sure this is what the catalyst for the entire thing was. So while Reuben was filming DMC5 or working on DMC5, after it had just come out, he was out. He got a interview request from some YouTubers who said, hey, Devil May Cry 5 is coming out. Would you like to come onto our show and talk about it? We're big fans of the game. We'd love to hear from you. And he went, sure, why not? Like, good publicity. I'm always up to talk to fans. Again, he's a very nice fellow. But in case you guys don't know who those two were, it ended up being a podcast or a show hosted by Hero Hey, YouTuber Hero Hey, and YouTuber Yellow Flash. So they had him on, and yes, most of the conversation centered on, Devil May Cry and his work in the industry, yada, yada, yada. But because of everything that was going on in 2021, that at that time, Hero Hey and Flash asked Langdon, let me... So yeah, sorry, I got distracted there by something, but, which, I mean, if you watch the show, you're used to that by now. I don't need to apologize to you guys, but on that show, they eventually got to the topic of Vic Mignogna, because this was not the crux of the Mignogna situation, but it was very much in the middle of it. I think at the time it was still ongoing. It was being litigated in court. So they basically said, hey, what do you think about all this stuff, Langdon? Like, you've worked with Vic before, and I don't know, guys, what specific projects they worked on together. Like, I should have probably looked that up. But given how just expansive both of their careers are, there's probably something, and if not, they probably just ran in the same general circle, being in the same industry. So they asked him, like, you know him, what's your take on all of this? And I'm going to paraphrase here. If you would like to hear everything Langdon said, it's about a 45-minute statement. It is very long. You can either go to this Bounding Into Comics article, and a link is in there to his Twitter Spaces, or if you're more reading inclined, I transcribed basically all of it right here. I know you took it from me, Niche Gamer, because that's all that transcription came directly from me, because I was doing it as it happened because of Zero, right? So yeah, so if you want the full actual words, they are available. I'm going to paraphrase just for the sake of our conversation. But essentially, Langdon went, look, I know him. Like, he's always been courteous. He's always been nice, like a fun guy to work with. I have not really heard these accusations against him. So it's not really my place to weigh in. I'm not going to comment on those because I don't know anything about them. But as far as I know, yes, I know he has a reputation for being a somewhat ladies' man, but he's never taken it to a criminal or improper level. That's so again, paraphrasing, but it was basically, the Vic I know is a nice guy. I've never seen him or heard of him being a sexual criminal, and I don't really want to comment on any details because I don't know them. Very, very reasonable response. In fact, that's probably the best response you can ever give in that situation, where it's somebody you're friends with, they're facing something serious. If you don't know all the details, you just say, I can't comment because I don't know all the details. In fact, even in life, guys, like, just this is a good piece of advice that I've sort of been trying to apply to my own life. You don't always have to present yourself as knowing absolutely everything. It's okay to be like, I forgot that. I don't know that. Do you know what it is? Hey, can you remind me of what that is? I mean, like, I've asked you guys in the chat every week for help in remembering something, right? So, but yeah, fantastic response. Probably the only good response he could have given in that situation. Now, I just saw that Vera's in the chat. Vera, hey, how's it going? That is an unexpected surprise. I love seeing you in here. And yes, it is a classic case of let's fire someone for having his own opinion. So that was sort of the two-piece part of that Newsweek article. One was, oh, he's an extremist. We need to ostracize him from society. And then the other was, oh, look, he didn't outright condemn Vic Mignogna. He's on his side. He's also an enabler. Blah, 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 blah. So that Newsweek piece comes out in 2021. If you guys remember, some of you might not. I think maybe like Zero might remember, Vera might remember. But at the time the article came out, most people went, what the hell is this? Like, this is not how Langdon presents himself at all. You know, we had a lot of people from our sphere around here going, whoa, we're fans of Hero Hey and Yellow Flash, and we watched that. That's not what he said at all. So, from our perspective, at least, as the American audience, I would chance to say, from my experience, that while Newsweek tried really hard to get this hit out on Reuben Langdon, it didn't really take. There wasn't a lot there. As soon as people looked into his statements, it was very much like, oh, he's not an extremist. He just disagrees with, the Biden administration or whatever and vaccine mandates. And, oh, he's not a conspiracy theorist. He just believes in UFOs. And, oh, he's not, defending Vic Mignogna per se. He's just saying, I know Vic, he's a good guy. I can't comment on anything else. It's the most like blasé thing ever. And they tried to blow this up into a scandal. Thankfully, yeah, like I said, American audiences, they went, we're not really going to buy it. And it kind of sort of floated out of our radar. It came and went. We didn't see anything happening publicly from Capcom, so we all just sort of went, let them bleat into the void. Fast forward to, what was this? This was like Monday, right, Dozer? So this is like February 20th or something. Langdon says, I'm going to come out on a space, he says, I'm going to host a Twitter space, and I'm going to let everybody know exactly what's going on with the situation. You know, a lot of people are speculating that because I'm not in Street Fighter or Devil May Cry Peak of Combat, that I have been blacklisted. I want to set the record straight. So out comes the space. Here comes Langdon. He's joined by a couple prominent YouTubers, video game personality YouTubers. One is Mikhail Casanova, or I always say Casanova because that's what I jokingly nicknamed him when we were going back and forth a couple years ago for a story. But Mikhail Casanova, he was like the main host of the space. That guy is really great. We covered him a couple years ago for Bounding when he got attacked by a bunch of Kick Vic people. But regardless, during the space, Langdon basically goes, all right, here's what happened. When that hit piece came out, most American audiences said, okay, fine, whatever. But when Yoshinori Ono, who is, for those who don't know, longtime Street Fighter series producer, he was the director for 4 and he was the director for 5, early parts of 6. He eventually left development after just workplace issues caused Capcom to want to cut ties. But according to Langdon, Yoshinori Ono saw the article, saw the way it was framed, saw the headlines, and mind you, Langdon says that it wasn't organic, right? According to Langdon, people were reaching out to Capcom and to Ono to be like, hey, did you see this about your voice actor? You need to see this, right? So to me, that doesn't sound so much like business, like me going over to, let's say, like Jonas Campbell over at That Park Place and going, hey, Jonas, you need to check this out because this is going to look really bad for you. To me, it's more of a like, what is the term I'm trying to say here? I don't know where I was going with that one. So anyway, yeah, Ono sees the article, completely believes the read as presented by Newsweek, and yeah. Oh yeah, it was being sent to Ono, so I'm led to believe that Ono, the internet, the terminally online internet warriors started flooding whatever emails they could, tagging whatever accounts they could, because nobody over there was really caring about it. As a result of that campaign, according to Reuben, Ono flipped out. He read the way it was presented in the article, and he heard all the feedback, and he went, "We can't work with this guy. Get him the hell out of here." Like, absolutely not. Like, he had just the emotional reaction. According to Reuben, he tried to reach out, tried multiple times to get a meeting with Yoshi to go, hey, here's what happened. This is not what happened. Like, this is a fake article, or yeah, it's essentially fake news. This isn't real. But Yoshi said, nope. I don't want anything to do with him. So with that, Langdon found his time as Ken Masters completely done. Yoshi said, get him out of here. He's done in Street Fighter. I don't want to see him anymore. Now, in terms of Peak of Combat, here's where the story takes an interesting, though not salacious twist, but a twist that I think is like positive. It's good. I laugh at it because it's such like a good, like, that's our boy, right? So, Peak of Combat. As it turns out, the reason Langdon didn't voice Dante in that game was similar to the anime. They just couldn't afford him. They went back and forth. He recounts in the space that they went back and forth for weeks. He saw agreements. They signed agreements. It was all working. And then like 2 days before recording started, they messaged him and said, we just can't do it. And he says, I'm pretty sure, they're a small Chinese budget studio. They probably just ran out of the money. Unfortunate, but it happens. Now, in terms of his future as Dante, what happened was, so obviously, all these games are under different directors and different teams and different divisions within these studios. So in Street Fighter, Langdon was made a persona non grata. But over at the Devil May Cry team, they all actually went and looked into the article, right? So according to Langdon, he's like, wow, this sucks. Like, I can't believe it. And a couple more months pass by, and he gets a call from, I always forget his first name, but hold on. I'm going to look it up. It's right here. Why don't I just look in the article for it? Oh yeah. So a couple months later, after this whole fiasco went down and he was kicked out of Street Fighter, Langdon gets a call from Hideaki Itsuno, who is the series director for Devil May Cry. And he calls him up and goes, "Yo, Reuben, we need you to come over. We're going to be doing a special edition of 5. We need to record some more material, some extra moves, yada, yada, yada. Can you make a trip out to Japan?" And Langdon goes, "Really? Really? But what about the article and everything? Like, didn't you read that? Aren't I out?" And like, this is so rad. Itsuno basically goes, "No, we all read it. Everybody on the team, as soon as we heard the news, we read the article and we were all able to determine like near immediately that it was bullshit. That, it was just a load of BS. So no, we don't care about that. You're still here. Can you come over and record for us? Please, we need our Dante." So that is the situation as it lies. Langdon has been kicked out of his role as Ken because Yoshinori Ono is an insane person who only reacts emotionally. He is no longer at Capcom. As I said, there were production issues during Street Fighter VI that led to his exit. But I don't think that means that he'll ever come back as Ken. I would love to see that sort of change, but who knows? The Ken Master situation is very much up in the air. But when it comes to Devil May Cry, that he is still Dante, which is so thankful because I genuinely don't think you can give this character to anybody else and get the same sort of crazy, wacky, nonchalant, but still at the same time super locked in characterization that we got from Langdon. He has the perfect, like, the way his voice acting performance has the perfect, like, what's the balance of carefree and deadly serious, and he just makes the character work so well. And yeah, so the good news is he's still Dante. Bad news, not Ken. I think the takeaway from this entire story is what Vera said, where honestly, guys, like, I know we've talked about it before. I've talked about it on some streams with people. It seemed like cancel culture was on its way out, but it is still very alive and well. At any second, you can be taken down for nothing. And so what's really important is to always do your due diligence, always look into situations. Don't just read like what's at the top. And yeah, like, if you know somebody, talk to them, right? Like, Itsuno knew Langdon, like, personally, like, they're friends because they've worked on all these games together. So the second he heard, oh, he's an extremist and a loony, he went, that doesn't sound like the guy I know. I gotta look into this because that's just not right. But yeah, I think this is an all-around positive development, or not development, but I'm just so happy he is still Dante. I'm happy that he is thriving, doing his own thing, doesn't really need any of their bullshit to drag him down. And yeah, that's the Langdon situation. I just think it's a really important one for us to all sort of know, to cover. Yeah, I don't have any giant lesson here to sort of give away. I just want to be like, yeah, Itsuno, yeah, Langdon, screw off Ono, and give me Devil May Cry 6 as soon as you can. Oh, and that's a good point that I wanted to tell I wanted to tell you guys. Okay, I have 2 points. One is that damn it, Zero, I saw all your messages. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get to them. And then when I thought that to myself, I completely lost whatever the hell I was going to say about Reuben Langdon and Devil May Cry and what comes next. Like, Devil May Cry 6 is coming, maybe? That would be really cool. Oh, right. So 2 things to note here. One, in terms of the upcoming Netflix series, Langdon said that he is not voicing Dante there as of right now, just because, 1, they haven't reached out to him, and 2, he also thinks there might be a budget limitation there because he is far more pricier than regular talent. 2, here's a little piece of the story I left out of it because I'm going to save this for a Bounding into Comics article. Obviously, you guys are going to get a preview. That's what you guys all get for being loyal readers and listeners. And the only way anybody's going to be able to scoop this out from under me is if they go and they listen to the podcast themselves. And if you do, then good. You deserve to get the scoop. But until then. So one of the most hilarious points that Langdon makes during his entire Twitter space is that the people he believes flooded Yoshi Ono and Capcom with the Newsweek story were Kick Vic. Like anybody, like that entire group of people, right? So in his Twitter space, there is a good 20 seconds where Langdon has an aside and he's just like, these Kick Vic people are immature, they're children, they're awful, they're as bad as Antifa, like what the hell? And I was just cracking up so hard. I cut it from the main story because the main story is already 500 like paragraphs long, but I'm probably going to write that one up. And I just thought it was so funny that even Langdon is like, internet crybabies, stop. I want nothing more to do with you. All right, let's see. Shinkai says, was sad to find out what happened, but happy people that see through the BS were able to help him. Screw Newsweek, Capcom, and others for this. I think that's probably, you just summed up my read of the situation in way less words than I gave it in. Yeah, I bad on Ono, bad on anybody else, bad on Newsweek, but thank just God, goodness, whoever you want to, give ups to, that somebody out there was looking out for Langdon and knew him as a person and was just willing to go to fight for him, right? Yeah, might have lost a battle, but won the war. That's perfect, Shinkai. Zero says, what I remember are the news that Ken's VA was being replaced. I didn't know about the Newsweek hit piece until Langdon himself told us about it. And then he says, to be honest, the whole voice acting thing in Street Fighter VI stinks. Chun-Li being race casted while replacing Laura Bailey should have been the first big warning. Langdon insists he didn't get canceled, but what happened that lost him Ken's role is pretty much a cancellation. Okay, so here's a good differentiator for the situation. Langdon is very, very vocal about the fact, like if you go listen to the space, he says it like every other sentence, that he has not been canceled. He does not believe he has been canceled. He doesn't feel canceled. And here's my read of it. I agree with him because I think cancellation involves or entails a complete thrashing of your entire life. You are fired from everything. You are basically made a persona non grata in society. You are told, you are ostracized. Often under, exaggerated or false pretenses. The fact that he only lost one role, I think, is what makes him feel like he wasn't canceled per se. Especially because it was, as he is able to identify, he knows it was the reaction of one emotionally stunted individual. So there was no Capcom campaign to get him canceled. Obviously, the Devil May Cry team didn't get rid of him. They're all still behind him. You can go through the article. He talks about in his quest to try and get a meeting with Ono, he went through a bunch of Capcom contacts and they were all behind him. So I think that is the difference between him being canceled and just losing a job. Is the fact that he's still there. He's still in the industry. He if he wanted to, he could go out and be in the next Final Fantasy or something, right? So I think that's where his differentiator comes from. I think you can make the argument that he was canceled to an extent, but I think, I think there's just levels in the use of the word canceled that are being lost because there's 700 different ways to read it. Yeah. Oh, you even got it right there, Zero. Yeah. The only difference is that he didn't get blacklisted like Vic. He instead saw the industry as full of shit and jumped out. Zero Dozer, or why did I say it like that? He also adds, Yoshi is a total hack. Thanks to Langdon's story, I understand how bad it was and why people celebrated when he left Capcom. Langdon won that night. Yeah, and I think that's probably how we can put a crown on that story and on tonight's episode, is that Langdon definitely won. And we should always highlight these wins. We should always celebrate these wins because we need to put eyes on this. We need more people to see, cancel culture, emotional reactionaryism. None of this stuff ever has substance. It's always just one or two people on power trips trying to get their way. And yeah, again, Vera ruined my entire last segment by summing it up at the very top, which is that he just got fired for having a different opinion. And that needs to stop. Always, right? We are especially, so this message is going to be more inclined to my American viewers than my two Brazilians in here. But you're going to have to accept the fact that you're going to have to live with people who don't have your viewpoint, who don't share your same ideas, yada, yada. That doesn't mean destroy them or get them out. And I mean this left wing, right wing, all wings, right? Like, we have to get back to this point where we understand and are able to communicate with each other, and we can compromise, or, you know, be able to tell people when they're like being ridiculous, no, we're not going to be we're not going to do that right now. So whether this is this is a good sign for Langdon, whether this will have any effect in the larger ongoing personality wars against the terminally online, I have no idea. That's something we're just going to have to find out. But yeah, glad to see that I'm still going to have, you know, Dante around for forever, or for the foreseeable future. And let's get DMC6 cracking. I need my character action game. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm saying. But yes, guys, we are at 9:13. It has been 3 hours and change. We have definitely had a long show tonight. Obviously, I want to give a shout out to every single one of you who joined me. We had Zero, we had Shinkai, we had Heretic Prince for a little bit, Duck stopped in for a second, we had Vera, which was like the coolest surprise. We obviously had Dante. I feel like I'm forgetting like a bazillion people. Can I even like scroll up and see everybody who was here? Of course, Eccentric Banana. How could I have forgotten you, my homie? Eccentric, Tahillim, Volume Dealer, all you guys stopped by. And of course, the man responsible for our shows going so much longer lately and so many tangents, Andrew of the Ripliverse. I don't know what your last name is, to be honest, because you don't use it anywhere. But yeah, thank you every single one of you guys for showing up tonight. It's always a blast. I love hanging out with you on these Friday nights. I always, you know, I host this show to try and give us a good start to the weekend, have a space where we can talk about positive things we don't like, but just sort of all hang out as a group of like-minded friends. So whenever you guys are able to join me, it's a huge pleasure to me. It lets me keep doing this, and I want to keep doing this as long as we can, right? With that being said, as always, if you want to catch more of me, you can follow me on Twitter down here. I'm going to get my directions on this like right one day. But you can follow me on Twitter at Kabuto Rider Mav. You can also catch me live on Wednesday nights on Bounding Into Comics 01 stream at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where I am joined by Jacob of Society Reviews and Cider of the Ciderverse, Cider Hype, however you want to refer to him, and often Josh Berger of Bounding Into Comics when he's not sick. The four of us get together. We talk about the big pop culture news of the week, you know, your Marvel, your DC, all that sort of fun stuff. So if you're looking for the big topics, that's where they get broken down. Of course, if you want more of a deep dive into smaller niche topics like video games, anime, manga, whatever the hell, you can come back to this channel, or you can come back same Mav time, same Mav channel next week for another episode of The Good, the Mav, the Ugly. As always, the topics are decided that week, since, you know, it's a news show or it's a talk show. That's sort of the format of it. So no idea what we're going to be talking about next week. Oh, wait, no, scratch that. Next week, we will be talking about Avatar, The Last Airbender. What am I talking about? I'll be watching it this weekend or over the course of the week. Obviously, we'll get into some news stories to kick off the show next week. But yeah, next week we'll have another media dive, if you will. So that should be fun. It's bad, so buckle up for a lot of me going, oh, because that's definitely what's going to happen. Yeah, aside from that, I think that's really all the main shout outs I really have for you guys tonight. As always, you know, follow everybody around this sphere. Zero Dozer on Twitch, Andrew on his Twitter and his YouTube channel, Tahillim on his YouTube channel, Shinkai on Twitter, all that fun stuff. Vera on her YouTube channel. I didn't even know you were still there. Like, literally lighting up my night, Vera. But yes, with that, guys, I think that we are at an end for tonight. I have a bunch of bounding work to write, but I am not going to leave you without your typical last call for last minute news. And tonight's clip, I chose it because, you know, in honor of Langdon, and also this is like peak Devil May Cry, and if you don't like this, it's basically a filter. So kick back and enjoy the stylishness.
Consider it a gift in honor of us finally meeting. Meeting.
And you know what that was, guys? If you haven't played Devil May Cry 5, that was a weapon introduction. That cowboy hat is one of the weapons you get to use. I'm telling you, these games are truly peak. With that, yeah, have a great weekend, everybody. Go check out some stuff you love. Go read something you love. Go play some Devil May Cry if you haven't. You can find me on Twitter if you want to yell at me or talk about anything. And yeah, until then, I will see you all next week. Take it easy.